Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are we doing today? Welcome to Rush to Judgment with Jessica, and I am Jessica. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everybody that is new here. Welcome to everybody that is returning. Welcome back. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. How are we doing? Everybody doing okay? Everybody hanging in there? It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's not Monday anymore. It's Tuesday. So it's almost Wednesday. So it's almost that middle of the week. So week's almost halfway over. So yeah. So we've got that to look forward to. Isn't that cool? Yesterday was my birthday, y'all. I know, wasn't that fun? Isn't that fun? How many people actually enjoy their birthdays past a certain age? Anybody? I'll wait. I don't know when do we still get to really celebrate a birthday? I don't know. I went to work yesterday, so wasn't really much celebrating going on. It was a Monday, so I went to work. That's what you do as an adult. Bills still have to be paid. So yeah. Okay. Well, so we are still working on the Nicole Nachtman trial. And just for a little refresher, she is a young woman that back in, hold on, let me grab my little note skis here. I just want to make sure I get the dates right. Well, that's not right. Okay. So the incident happened back in 2015. She is being charged with the unaliving of her parents, her mom and her stepfather, back in August of 2015. The trial took place in July, August of 2019. I found the trial and noticed that it was a judge that I like, so I picked this trial. It was the same judge that did the Trevor Summers case and a case that I just recently watched, which was the Matthew. I don't know. He stabbed his girlfriend in the neck. I don't know. It'll come to me. So I liked this judge, and that's why I picked it. So we're just kind of at the evidence portion of the things right now. It's kind of the boring parts. Thought maybe something would pop up. We're going to get into maybe some family testimony and then to some doctor's testimony, and then maybe that should liven some stuff up. I don't know. Defense is going for the insanity plea or the insanity defense. So that part gets kind of interesting. So Cross, I listen for Cross mostly. State's going to try to prove their case anyway. I am a naturally doubtful person, so I don't know that I'd ever really make a good juror, because I always have doubt in my brain anyway, or I'm always really easily convinced that someone did something. So clearly she did the things that they're saying that she did. There's no disputing that. But then they're trying to say, well, she has a long history of mental health issues that caused her to do such things. So that is where they're going with that. Sorry, I'm constantly looking for this dog. She is a puppy, so you have to keep an eye on her because she likes to roam and then get into things and chew on things she's not supposed to. Or use the potty. That's not a potty because this is the inside. She's supposed to do that on the outside. But so anyway, but yeah, just to remind everyone, I am not an expert, nor do I specialize in any particular area of educational information, nor am I a lawyer or legal expert of any kind. I am just here to add my opinions and my judgment and my snarky commentary where necessary, or sometimes where not necessary, but where I feel where it belongs. Just on various topics right now. I'm into some true crime and some trials. And those are things I find interesting and entertaining right now. And that's what I've been doing. So if you find this video entertaining or you find my comments interesting, entertaining, appalling, however you would like to look at it, leave me a comment, let me know. I most likely will respond however you would like. But easy, I get my feelings hurt real easy. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do all of those things. Get the video out into the universe and let the world see. So yeah, we shall get started, and this is picking up right where the last video dropped off at. We're still on day 2. But we're gonna keep playing through. So if we get into day 3, I'm trying to keep these videos between an hour and 2 hours, depending on how much time I have in order to do the videos. Like I've said in videos prior, I don't watch them prior to, so I don't know what's about to come up besides what's in the descriptions. I like to watch them first time on here, so my reactions are legit and real. So yeah, that's how we're going with this. So we're still on day 2, and this is like video 5. Okay, but this is Corporal Greg Thomas, I believe, is who we're getting to. And I might skip around and fast forward through some things if I get bored or, so sorry. You can find all of these on Law and Crime's YouTube channel if you want to go and watch it without commentary, or if you want to continue to watch things with that I skip through. It's all on there. So anyway, okay, let's get her going.
Settle call Detective Greg Thomas. Detective Thomas. Mr. Terry, is it Corporal Thomas? No, it is Corporal. I'm sorry, it's Corporal. Corporal Thomas, good afternoon and welcome. You'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable. If you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. You swear affirming testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Swear. Thank you, Corporal. If you'll follow the deputy around to the ramp that leads up to the chair, please watch your step. When you get to the chair, go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. That microphone does adjust. And when you're ready, I'm going to allow you to ask some questions. All right. Good afternoon, Corporal Thomas.
Hello.
Please tell the jury your name and spell your last name for the court.
Greg Thomas, Thomas.
And Corporal Thomas, where are you employed?
Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
About 19 years now.
What's your current position with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
I'm assigned as a homicide section supervisor, corporal rank.
As a corporal rank of the homicide unit, what are your duties?
Pretty much
19
just,
years.
supervisor
I think the
of
longest
assigned
I've ever had a
detectives to that
job is
particular
like
unit. In the capacity of,
5-6
calling them out
years.
on current cases. I'll go out with them myself to current
That's
cases.
a long time.
Evaluating their
to be at a
supplements,
job.
reports, making sure payroll is up to date and so forth.
I get bored.
As a corporal now, though, you don't normally take on a lead detective type role in the case?
No.
Back in August of 2015, what was your position at that point?
I was a detective assigned to homicide.
Were you on duty the night of August 20th of 2015?
Yes, I was called out.
You were called out. Where were you called to go? Do you recall?
The actual residence or the numerical, I'd have to refer to the supplement, but it was in the Carrollwood Village area, which is part of our District 3 patrol area.
Okay. Would 14108 Finsbury Drive sound familiar?
Yes, Finsbury Drive, correct.
Do you recall by what time you arrived there?
I think it was a few minutes before 10 p.m. or so, or a little after 10 p.m.
What did you do when you first arrived?
Pretty much started to evaluate from patrol, or just basically be debriefed by patrol. As soon as I arrived, it was the residence is in a cul-de-sac. So the area was cordoned off with crime scene tape. There were several deputy vehicles or marked vehicles parked around the area with deputies out on what we would call a perimeter, because of the actual 911 call that there were shots heard, and a decedent was located in a neighbor's driveway next to the incident scene of Finsbury. So it was assumed that maybe there was an active shooter, if you will, or active suspect in the area.
Now, when you first arrived, obviously the body in the driveway had been located. Had the other body been located at the time you arrived?
Yes, I was advised by patrol that under the circumstances of responding to shots being fired and locating a victim or decedent, that they noticed the front door to the said residence, 14108 Finsbury, was somewhat ajar and open. So they didn't know if they had potential other victims inside or a potential suspect. So they had a duty to go and look into it. They found a locked door, bedroom door. Once they made entry into that bedroom door, they located another deceased victim.
Right. Now, could the address have been actually 14110, 108 being the house with the driveway?
Correct. The house 108 was where one of the 911 calls originated from. You're correct.
Right. And so basically the house next door, would that be accurate?
Yes.
Right. And so when you were advised of this, what did you all do?
At that point, once I was kind of debriefed on what they had located inside, I needed to start to verify if we had like a murder-suicide type of situation or an active homicide situation with a potential suspect somewhere. So I went in to evaluate and look at the decedent on the inside of the residence and noted that he appeared to have been deceased for quite a period of time. So with my experience, I deduced that that was not going to be a murder-suicide situation. I had everybody pull out of the house, secure it so that I could author a search warrant.
Have you been to numerous crime scenes in your career?
Yes, I was a detective for almost 15 years, so hundreds of scenes.
So you've seen dead bodies at various stages of decomposition?
Yes.
And so you were readily able to tell that this body had been around for a little while?
Yes,
And based on that, you realized you had something different than a murder-suicide?
that was my opinion, yes.
Was your opinion? Okay. And so did everyone clear out of the scene when you said that?
Yes.
Right. And what did you do with the house at that point?
Deputy was posted at the front door to make sure nobody went in or out. The rest of my homicide unit arrived to the scene. I debriefed them on what we had. I believe it was Detective Lugo at the time, started assisting with crime scene on processing the decedent, Miriam Beans, on the outside next door in the neighbor's residence. And I started to author a search warrant on my laptop.
Now, were you assigned a specific duty? Because known as a detective, when there's a scene, don't detectives get assigned specific duties?
Yes, pretty much when we arrive on a scene and debrief and discuss what's going on, there will be one detective assigned as the lead detective. One will be assigned as the assist to the lead. One will be assigned as the crime scene detective, which I was assigned on this particular case. And all the other detectives are peripheral ancillary that assist with leads and interviews and so forth.
And as the crime scene detective, what are your specific duties with that?
Pretty much document processing of the scene and work with our crime scene investigators, document everything and make decisions along with crime scene on what to be processed, what to be collected. Eventually, once the scenes are released, then we'll discuss with the lead detective on what we want to submit to various labs or Florida Department of Law Enforcement to process or analyze.
Right. How long did it take to get the search warrant authorized?
It was a few hours. I had some network connectivity issues, so I actually had to leave the scene and drive to one of our district
Oh, this dog is
offices
driving
and,
me nuts.
log in so I can author it. So it was a few hours before it was actually written up and then provided to a judge for review.
And while you're doing that, I guess the crime scene remains secure and everyone just kind of waits around until the warrants actually.
Yes.
Do you recall at what time you got the search warrant approved?
For a supplement, I think it's about 2:30 in the morning. Yeah, it was roughly about 2:30. By the time I got back to the scene, driving back from the judge's house, it was probably about 3 a.m.
What did you do when you got back to the scene?
Pretty much we conducted a walkthrough. Crime scene investigators will start to conduct overall photographs and or video the scene. So we would have entered to conduct overall photographs. They had some animals in there. I think a couple of the dogs were secured on the back patio area. We counted 3 cats in there, so we were able to move the cats into a back bedroom so they wouldn't run out of the house. And pretty much started just taking account of what kind of scene we had, how much of the house would be involved.
It's nice that they take care of the
And
animals.
you do this with the crime scene investigators? Do you recall
Oh,
the crime
crap.
scene investigators
Sorry.
during that time?
I don't mean to chew in anyone's
CSI
ears.
Shelby Garman. I think Brandon Douglas was there that first night. Going into the next morning, I mean, we pretty much will stay on scene round the clock. So going into the next day, I know Matt Evans and I think Caitlin Hall came the following day to relieve the night shift folks.
Did you stay on scene the whole time?
I went home probably going in the next day, maybe about 4:30 in the afternoon the following day.
When you did the initial search of the residence, did any particular items of evidence stand out to you as you were going through?
We started pretty much we go room by room, kind of in a pattern, if you will, or maybe counterclockwise or clockwise, depending on where in a structure a decedent may be or evidence. So within the kitchen area, we started to note possible blood, kind of a pattern or spattering, if you will. So those areas would be marked with certain evidence markers, photographed, added to scale for diagramming, and then later on, once all the previous steps were completed, they would be tested presumptively for whether or not it's human blood or not. So they were later tested and proved positive for human blood.
Okay. What did you notice, if anything, in the laundry room?
There was, in the kitchen area, there was a bucket with some mop water and an actual mop inside, like a ringing mop bucket. And then you would move right into the utility room. And within the washing machine, there was laundry in there that was still wet, that just had not been moved to the dryer. But you could tell it had been washed. So there was, we went through all those items and found like a pair of what I would say girls' jeans or young person's jeans, flannel shirt. I believe there was a sponge in there as well, like a cleaning sponge, and then a ball cap.
Anything about the ball cap that you noticed when you were looking at it?
There was a hole in the back, like where the kind of the tag or the strap would be to tighten it. There was a hole in the back of it.
Did you notice anything in the main family room area where the TV was?
There was later on we were able to determine some possible blood, which tested later positive for human blood upon one of the sides of the couches that was facing, I think, the TV. TV was on. There was a movie that would have been playing that was on pause within a like a bookshelf. There was a lot of DVDs, like movies, kind of they must have collected DVDs or something. One of the bookshelves had a small spot of later to be determined to be blood. There was like a recliner chair with a bag of Cheetos in it, and I think another ball cap was sitting on the couch. Things of that nature, typical things you would find in a family room as well.
How about in the bedroom, in the southwest bedroom, the bedroom without the body, not the master bedroom? Did you find anything there?
So my
That would
question is,
be,
did she?
The room with the
Where did
window.
she shoot the stepdad?
Okay,
that is what I would
we
like
found,
to know.
some documentation for
And
the
then
defendant's school schedules. We found, I think, some
Where
documentation for some recent.
was she sitting in the chair waiting on mom to get home?
I want to say over the counter
Paused her
medication
show.
on like a open tab from over the counter medication on the dresser. The window was open. That's all that I can think of right now without going through the property receipt.
Now, from the crime scene and from all the evidence you all were able to gather throughout the process and the time, were you able to determine the location where the decedent may have been shot?
It was surmised that it was somewhere in, this is kind of a typical like Florida home split floor plan, master suite on one side, bedrooms on the other, living room, family room, open kitchen area. So it was based on the blood pattern and what we were able to process with applying a Blue Star application that probably was discussed earlier with crime scene investigators. It looked like it would have been kind of in the walkway between like the kitchen area going into the family room, which then opens going south into the bedrooms and the bathroom. So like in that general area on tile floor.
Did, were any fingerprints located?
Yes.
Go ahead, explain that.
It was on the outside wall of the bedroom where the decedent was located, the decedent on the inside of the house. There was a fingerprint on a wall next to the door on the right side of the door, bedroom door.
And did you have your crime scene investigator process that fingerprint?
Yes, we ended up removing that part of the wall, the drywall, preserving it.
Now, after this initial search, and so you understand the crime scene investigator Garment's already been here, we've gone through all that, pictures and all the evidence of that.
Okay.
After that particular search that you conducted with Shelby Garment, did you come back to the house at a later time to conduct another search?
Yes, I would have kind of on the 20th after midnight when we go into the 21st. By the time the search warrant was served and we started processing the house, I would have stayed through those wee hours of the morning, all through the 21st till I think about 4:30 that afternoon of the 21st. And then I went home to sleep for a little while. And I believe a couple of the other crime scene investigators came that evening when it got dark again to apply Blue Star. So I wasn't present for that, but came the next morning, which would have been the 22nd, I think at about 9 a.m. to finish the processing on the inside of the house. And then we would have moved to the exterior of the house to make sure we weren't leaving anything behind with going through, I mean, the entire yard, the outdoor pool area, driveway, garage, all that kind of stuff.
Share with the Marcus States exhibits number 24A through G. Ask if you can take a look at these and see if you recognize what those are.
Yes.
And what are those?
The first photograph would have been in the kitchen area between the laundry room and like the walkway coming out of the open kitchen into the family room area. And it was like a kind of like a wine bar table. And on that would be looks like a class schedule, several classes and their locations and whatnot. This photograph here with marker 3, it's a framed picture of what would be the male decedent, Robert Deans. At that time, we were still trying to basically verify his identity. So we were looking through, one of the bedrooms was, I guess, established as like the home office, and it had like a desk in there, some filing cabinets. That's where all their bills and so forth were. So we were trying to find birth certificate, marriage certificate, anything with his actual like date of birth on it, maybe social security and so forth. So we started photographing a few of the picture frames in there with both the decedents, and then found a couple of these Sentry safes. They had the keys in them. So within them, we photographed items that were identifiable as like, I think he had like I think it was his birth certificate in one of them, but there were some documents in there that would help us with identification.
Right, did these pictures, do they fairly and accurately represent what the pictures you took from that secondary search?
Yes.
Judge, we believe that states that 24A through G admitted evidence.
No objection.
They will be admitted.
24A, this is that, this is called the wine bar sort of thing.
Yes.
And you see on top of there, maybe 24B shows a little better. Was that where this schedule was found? Was it in that location?
It was.
Right. And then 24C. And this would be the schedule you're talking about that you found there?
That's what was found right there on that table. Yes.
And then 24D, this would be the photograph of who you later identified as Robert Deans, the
Correct.
victim, the male victim in this case.
Yes.
And 24E,
Yes. Those were within, there was like a linen closet on the, right next to the entry door to the bedroom that we pretty much noted as being like the home office.
and 24F is just more close to those pictures.
Correct.
And then 24G were the safes.
Yes. They were in that linen closet before the office
Okay.
door.
And the safes were in there, no one had touched them, no one had moved them, they were just like.
Correct. Yeah, nothing within the office looked like it had been rifled through or, looked through or anything like that. I mean, they had like current bills up on I think a bed was in there, or a day bed, and then a desk from what I remember, and filing cabinets, but it appeared to be intact as they would leave it.
But no signs that anyone had tried to go through the safes or open the safes?
No.
Did you have the class schedule that was found in the kitchen taking evidence?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 56. Ask you if you can open that up and take a look inside.
Why do they actually have to open evidence? That was so annoying. Takes so much time. It's just annoying.
The defense can have no objection to the introduction of this.
It's a piece of friggin'
Yes,
paper.
evidence this time.
It'll be admitted.
Thank you.
What number? I'm sorry.
It's State's Exhibit number 56.
Thank you.
And this that I'm holding up here, this is the actual paper that was found. It's like a kind of a Xerox copy of the class schedule. This is what was found on that wine bar. that you
Yes.
just described.
Yes.
Now, aside from the search of the house, you said you also did a search of the exterior of the house.
Yes.
Were you able to find anything of any evidentiary value on the search of the exterior of the house?
No. Obviously, with a scene like this, you're going to be looking for anything of evidentiary value, weapons, and anything else, and nothing was located on the exterior. No.
Did there come a time where you did a dive of the lake behind the house?
Judge, may we approach? Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a very short break. We're still going to be on schedule for getting out of here, but we're going to let you go back in the jury room for just a moment. So don't talk about the case with anyone, including yourselves, and don't do any research. So all rise for the jury.
That's the one thing about not watching it live is that we
All
don't
members of the jury
actually
are
get
present
to
to see everyone
hear
else may be seated at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, jury, welcome back. We're going to pick up where we left off.
any of the in-court arguments, really.
When you conducted that search of the outside, did you also, there was a lake behind the house, did you also send a dive team to do a search of the lake?
Yes, we did.
And were you able to recover anything in the lake?
No, we weren't.
Now, there were a couple of vehicles at the residence, correct?
Yes.
Did you search those?
So whatever she
Yes,
objected
we
to,
had
she
them towed
lost.
back to our crime scene garage. It's closed off, secured bays. Searched the vehicles there. One of the vehicles was registered to Robert Dean's. I think it was a red pickup at Ford, maybe. The other one was Miriam Dean's Volkswagen.
I'm going to show you where Marcus State's Exhibit 20. And were you present for those searches?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's Marcus State's Exhibit 26A through K for identification. Ask you to look through those and see if you recognize what that is.
No objection to the introduction of this exhibit.
All right, it'll be admitted into evidence. What number is it?
It's 26A through K.
All right, they will be admitted as composite exhibit.
All right, 26A, this is the truck you were just referring to that belongs to Robert Dean's.
Correct.
And the location of this, obviously it's in a warehouse building. That's owned by the sheriff's office.
Correct. That's one of the crime scene garage bays.
And 26B is another view of this truck from a different angle.
Yes.
26C,
Same truck. Yes.
26D,
Front. Yes.
in the bed, 26E,
Yes.
the interior, 26F,
Yes.
26G,
Yes.
from the driver's side, from the passenger side, 26H,
Yes.
and I take it this would be at the back seat, 26I,
Yes.
and then 26J. Where were these located?
The driver's side visor.
And then 26K,
Those were, I believe, came out of the glove compartment of the Ford truck.
other than these identifying materials that were found inside the truck, was anything else of any evidentiary value found in the truck?
No.
Judge, the defense has no objection to exhibit
A through L.
A through L.
It will be admitted.
Judge, publish.
You may.
All right, Mike, I'm gonna put these up, but I think you recognize what they are, even I haven't seen yet. 25A, what is this a picture of?
That would be the Volkswagen registered to Miriam Dean's.
And 25B,
Same vehicle, driver's side.
Now, is this a different bay? Because it looked, the walls and stuff look a little different.
It's just the other side. There are 4 bays. So this would be right next door. There's that black curtain would separate this car from the red truck. That's on the other side.
25C is
Yes.
from the vehicle. 25D is from another angle.
Yes.
25E.
Same car. Yes.
Okay, that's looking into the driver's side door.
Correct.
And same with 25F. It's just going to be a little bit larger picture of it.
Yes.
25G would be the back seat. Is that correct?
Correct.
25H.
Yes.
25I.
Yes. That's a center console area.
And 25J, that's the trunk that's open.
Yes.
25K. It's the bag, correct?
Yes.
That was in the back seat?
Everything was as it was found within the car. Yes.
Okay. And then 25L, where was this found?
I believe that was in the bag in the picture previously. I believe it was.
In this picture here?
I believe it was.
It was in there.
But it came from the car, though, somewhere in the interior of the car.
In that last picture I showed you, what was that a picture of?
Hotel receipt from where Marion Deans was staying up in Jacksonville.
Did you take that receipt into evidence?
Yes, we did.
And have you opened evidence number 57, take a look inside and see if you recognize what that is?
If that is exhibit number 57, the defense is going to have no objection to its introduction.
It'll be admitted.
Still open.
open. That's the receipt you found?
Yes.
And where does it say that Ms. Deans was staying?
It's called the Navy Gateway Inns and Suites in Jacksonville, Florida.
And what was her date of check-in?
Looks like the 18th of August, 2015.
And what was the date she checked out?
Looks like the 19th, 2015. Or it's charged at least through the 19th. So probably going into the 20th that morning would have been leaving.
Judge, I'm going to object to any speculation of what it means going into the next day. The receipt would speak for itself.
I'll sustain that. I'll caution the witness not to speculate.
Judgment publish this to the jury. So basically it's showing a room charge for 2 nights.
Yes.
And was this the only thing of any evidentiary value that you found within the vehicle belonging to Miriam Deans?
Yes, just other than, her bag of clothing and there were some items from the car that would have been brought into the house prior. So there was, I think, a laptop came out of the car as well.
Can I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
No further questions? Corporal Thomas.
Examination.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
It would be fair to say, based on what you were observing at the 14110 Fensbury Drive, it would be fair to say that the highest concentration of Blue Star and what would have been presumptively tested as blood was in the kitchen area. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
And then there was then a little bit less, but some in this hallway area, kind of like a little bit in the recliner and a little bit on the couch that we've talked about with several crime scene individuals. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the reality of it is that based on everything that you have done and everything that the crime scene technicians have done, when you walked away on August 27th from the crime scene itself, there is no way to tell where exactly Mr. Deans was killed. Is that correct?
Correct.
But ma'am, he was still killed.
relates to the scene when you first arrived and someone had obviously already gone inside and had found another individual deceased in the house of 14110. You indicated that you went out to get a search warrant. You were gone for a couple, 3 hours. Was it your understanding that the bedroom door where the body was found had already been breached in some way?
Yes, that was patrol.
And do you know whether or not someone stood basically outside of that bedroom while you went to get the search warrant, or did they actually stand outside of the house as a whole?
Yeah, they physically stood outside of the house on the front foyer area outside of the front door.
And
So
was that Rizzo? Does that name sound familiar?
I would have to look through the supplements, but it was a uniformed deputy.
And as you were walking through in the dining room area, in your initial walkthrough, you saw what you and crime scene technician Garman determined to have been a purse or some type of purse-like that you believe belonged to Miriam Deans, based on what you found inside. Is that correct?
Are you talking about in the dining room area?
Yes.
Correct, yes.
You also found a plastic bag,
Yes,
and you also looked there to see what kind of receipt there might be or something.
Correct.
Is that correct? And do you recall whether or not Ms. Dean's keys were actually also in that same general area?
I'd have to look through the photographs to see if they were in there or if they were still in the vehicle or whatever. But I'd have to look through the photographs to remember.
In looking at the inventory and the photographs that you just saw with the vehicle, did you see any keys within the vehicle itself?
Not with the photographs Mr. Terry showed.
And you had already learned from everyone who had already responded earlier that the front door was open
Correct,
to that residence, 14110, when the first neighborhood survey attempt was made, correct?
correct.
And did you observe whether or not the lights were on in the house?
I remember the lights were on in the kitchen area, and I would say the dining room where the purse and items were set on the dining room table. I don't recall any other lights being on.
And there obviously has been testimony that in the actual living room that there was a movie that had been paused.
Yes,
And you recall the name of the movie?
Ex Machina.
Do you know anything about that movie at all?
No, never seen it.
And you indicated that you had seen a bag of Cheetos or something of that sort in a chair right there in the living room. Are you talking about a reclining chair or a separate chair?
It was a reclining chair, so it would have been facing the TV, like to the left of a couch that was in front of the kitchen area.
And did you notice that there were other items that were also in that chair, such as perhaps like a throw, could have been a throw comfort or something of that sort? There were other items there, not just a bag of Cheetos.
Right. I think there was a blanket or something to that effect. I'd have to look at the pictures again.
And, excuse me for just one moment. The photograph that you previously discussed with Mr. Terry, I just want to make sure I understood you correctly, and particularly 24D, the photograph of Mr. Deans,
Yes.
and the photographs that are in this frame that have the word laugh,
Yes.
and that is photograph 24E, and then the photograph 24G of the safe, the Century safe. All of those were literally found inside of a linen closet. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
The photograph, or at least let me put it this way, when you were doing your walkthrough and then when photographs were going to be taken of the room that you believed to have belonged to Ms. Nachtman based on other things that you saw in there and how it was set up, you found some medication over the counter, and that was Unison sleep tablets. Is that correct?
I believe it was. I don't recall the brand or anything, but you could tell it was an over the counter.
And you know there were sleep tablets, whatever their name was.
Again, I'd have to look at photographs to see what it was, if it was allergy meds or something.
All right. You're gonna have to give me a moment to find the exhibit. Let me show you what was introduced already by Mr. Terry, number photograph 14N, and just ask you if you could look at that one photograph and tell me if you can see the words Unison sleep tablets on there.
I see sleep tabs and I see OM, so
Well, we're good with the sleep tablets. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sleep
I appreciate it.
tablets.
Thank you very much. And did you also locate the marriage certificate of Mr. Deans and Mrs. Deans?
yes, I think it was in one of those Century safes where it came from.
What does any of this have to do with anything?
Did you do a walk of the outside of the home at 14110 all the way around? Did you walk around the entire house?
It was myself and a couple other detectives from my unit and crime scene. So I remember going through some of the front yard area, a lot of the landscaping beds, and then the side of the house, which it was in a cul-de-sac. So it's kind of like I guess you could say the north side, closest to the crossroad. And then I covered and walked through the back pool area within the screen enclosure, all that area out there.
In doing your walking through all those areas, you did not see anything that you thought was of any evidentiary value. Obviously, I know about Mrs. Dean's out in the driveway next door and all that. But as you walk around, you didn't find anything of evidentiary value, correct?
No, ma'am,
Besides
not
the
from-
dead lady
from
in the neighbor's driveway.
When you were walking through the back and through the sides, did you happen to notice the garage door from the side that you could exit from the garage?
Yes.
And at the time, did you know whether the door was open or locked or anything of that sort?
I don't remember, but obviously that'd be something we would check, see if it was secured or not. I do remember seeing a doorway because I did walk through that area at some point during the course of the couple days I was there. I think there were some trash cans on that side of the house as well, I think.
And did you have occasion to go to the house at 14108 to look outside, from the inside to the outside of their home to see what could be observed?
I believe one of the other detectives did that. I didn't personally go in there and look.
And do you recall that what the lighting was, the natural lighting was on the exteriors of these homes?
It was before 10 p.m. I think after 8:30, so it would have been that time of year. Would have been dark. I don't remember if they had like exterior lights next to the doors. So I couldn't tell you if it was lit up with any exterior lights or not.
Do you recall that the crime scene technicians set up their own type of illumination that actually illuminated both 14110 as well as 14108 Fensbury? Do you recall that?
Correct. Yes, that would have been for the processing outside with the female's body.
And is it also accurate that a neighborhood survey was done of the homes around there to talk to different people as well as to look to see whether or not anyone had any type of security system, exterior security system that may have captured anything?
Yes, that would have been done by the lead, the assist, and then the other peripheral detectives. So I didn't have any part of the neighborhood survey.
So as you sit here today, to the best of your knowledge, did anyone ever find a recording of any type of movement within that area, let's say from the time period of 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night?
Not that I'm aware of.
And are you aware of whether or not any of the homes on that cul-de-sac area actually had outside recording security systems?
I'm unaware if they did.
Go let down.
Read it right. May this witness be excused or subject to recall? Identify the defense, excused or subject to recall?
I'd like to keep the corporal subject to recall if it's okay, and we've got his contact
Okay,
information.
absolutely. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
So you're not released this time. But you
Absolutely.
may step down.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's 5 o'clock and we're going to call it a day and get you out of here. I just want to let you know the schedule for tomorrow because I had said throughout jury selection that we may break early Friday and let you get out of here a little bit early. I'm still going to do that. You've been working very hard.
Been working very hard. It's day 3. See, they don't usually show this now. I'm bringing them in. They definitely don't show it in front of the jury.
One. How's everyone this morning? I'm told that all the jurors are here, right?
Yes, sir.
We have anything before we get started?
Oh, just one matter, Judge. Mr. Carey, Judge Carey has decided you guys want to come and see some of the trial.
He's welcome to.
So he's seated back there. He's
Okay.
present. So, and I know the defense is already, they know that.
Okay, yeah, no, that's his right to be here. And he's welcome. Anything from the defense before we get started?
Judge, we have spoken in regards to the exhibit that Ms. Geary is going to introduce today, with the same caveat that we're going to have no objection to the introduction, and it's going to be tied in later on.
Okay.
Yes.
So just we're going to try and move our evidence part of it through a little bit today.
Well, that's good to hear.
We we've been in discussion about that. We're gonna try and move this as fast.
I appreciate all the professionalism. So you all are, both sides, doing a great job, and I appreciate it. Ready to bring the jury in?
Yes.
And let the record reflect Ms. Nachtman is present. Good morning and welcome. I plan to take only an hour lunch today since we're going to break at 3:30.
That's great.
So, we'll see where we're at, but 12, 12:15, 12:30 probably at the latest. We'll take a morning break, 10:30,
And then no afternoon break.
11, no.
Great. Thank you.
Do you have to stand there the whole
All
time?
rise for the jury.
Jury is present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning and welcome back. The good news is that it wasn't raining on the way in this morning. I did see some clouds out there, so I don't know how it will be when we get out of here today. But consistent with what I told you yesterday, the plan is to break no later than 3:30 today. We will take a morning break. We will take our lunch break. I'm probably just going to give you an hour lunch break today since we're getting out early. So we're going to pick up where we left off, and I'm going to ask the state to call their next witness.
Todd Bittner?
Bittner?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bittner, good
Who
morning
you?
and welcome. You'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable. After you come across that, if you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff around to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. When you get to the chair, go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. That microphone does adjust.
Matthew Terry. That was the other trial.
Good morning.
Told you it would come to me.
Can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Todd James Bittner, last name spelled Buettner.
Thank you. Where do you work?
Public supermarkets.
And what position do you work for?
I'm a customer service
Oh.
manager.
And were you working in that same position in August of 2015?
Yes.
At what store?
Sure.
Store 1170, Ehrlich and Turner.
I want to turn your attention back to August of 2015. Do you recall, and I guess I should say, at several points in your career, a manager for Publix, are you often contacted by law enforcement in an attempt to retrieve surveillance video from your store?
Yes.
Do you recall such an occasion like that at some point in August of 2015?
I believe so, yes.
And whatever law enforcement was coming to you about at that time to gain the video, did you have any knowledge of the background of the case or any reason why they needed the video?
No, not that time.
Okay. And is that pretty common that they'll just come to you sometimes for video, but you may not necessarily know why they need it?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the surveillance cameras and the video footage in your store?
Yes.
How many cameras are in that public store?
We have 3 VCRs running. There's 13 on first two, so 26 plus 8. So we're at least 34, somewhere around there.
34 total cameras
I believe so.
located in all different positions throughout the store.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. Oh, yes.
Could he put his microphones closer to him?
Yes, and let me make sure that it's on. It's the green light. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So you said approximately 34 total cameras in all different positions.
There might be a few more, but yes.
Okay. And as a manager, do you have access to the video camera system?
Yes.
Are you familiar with how it works?
Yes.
Is it recording 24 hours a day or at all times when the store is open?
It's recorded for movement. So anytime there's a sensor activated, it records.
Okay. Is it recording in real time?
Yes.
The time that is displayed on those cameras or that would be displayed on a video, is that time accurate?
Very close.
Okay. When you say very close, what do you mean?
Very
Maybe a minute or
close.
two?
Yeah, a minute or two.
Okay. As the manager at Publix, have you had prior occasions where you've had to personally retrieve that
Maybe an
video
hour
off
or
that
two
system?
off.
Yes.
Turn it over to law enforcement perhaps?
Yes.
Or I guess upper management. Okay. Are you familiar with the background of the system as far as how it was installed in the stores?
I've seen them work on it, but besides the wiring and all that, no. But yeah.
Okay. Do you know how to stop it, save it, record video, that sort of thing?
Yes.
Can that video
Yes.
footage be altered?
Nothing more of.
Mr. Bittner, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State Exhibit 29 for identification purposes. Do you recognize this disc?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
Was reviewed with you a few minutes ago, and I saw the still shots of the videos.
Your initials and your date on this disc, do those indicate that this is in fact the video that you've previously viewed?
Yes.
Okay. And is this video a fair and accurate depiction of the events that you downloaded for law enforcement on August 20th of 2015 at your public store?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I ask you to evidence State Exhibit 29,
No objection at this time, subject to previous discussion we had, Judge.
All right, I'll be admitted at this time.
and I'd ask for permission to publish.
You may publish.
Mr. Bittner, while that video is loading, I'm going to show you what's been pre-marked as States Exhibit 71A through D for identification purposes. Do you recognize these?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And do these appear to be the still shots or screenshots from the video in States Exhibit 29?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, without objection, I'd ask to move in evidence States Exhibit 71A through D. That's right.
It'll be a minute.
I swear it was just 8 o'clock. Now it's 10 o'clock.
Mr. Bittner, the video that we're watching, you see before you in the top left corner, it says entrance. Do you see that?
Yes.
And at the bottom, it appears to be a date of August the 18th of 2015. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And the time, 1954, would that be approximately 7:54 p.m.?
Yes.
Does that all appear to be accurate as you recall the camera system working on that date and time?
Yes.
Mr. Bittner, the individual that we see in this photograph on the right side of the screen, do you recall having any contact with that man?
No.
And on this camera angle, we see in the top left, Reg 1/2. Is that just an indication of a register camera?
Yes.
And the date and time, August 18th of 2015, 2016 hours, approximately 8:16 p.m. Does that appear to be accurate as you recall these cameras working on that date and time?
Yes.
There's permission to publish States Exhibit 71A through D.
You may.
Mr. Bittner, I'm showing you States Exhibit 71A. Does this appear to be a screenshot of that first camera or camera view that we just watched at the entrance?
Yes.
And 71B, same closer image.
Yes.
71C
Yes.
and 71D.
Correct.
Thank you, Judge. Nothing further. I'll pass the witness.
Cross.
No questions, thank you, sir.
May this witness be excused by the state
Yes, sir.
and by the defense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. You may be excused as a witness at this time. You're welcome. I'll ask the state party next witness.
Carla Perez, Detective Carla Perez.
Detective Perez. Corporal Perez, welcome.
Thank you.
Or Sergeant Perez.
That's okay.
Sorry. If you'll raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear affirm any testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sergeant. You'll follow the bailiff around the ramp. Please up to the witness chair. Go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. That microphone is just.
Sorry, Judge.
Just how you get your seat.
Can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes, ma'am. It's Sergeant Carla Perez, Perez,
Thank you. And where are you employed?
Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office,
How long have you been employed with the Sheriff's Office?
approximately 19 years.
What was your position with the Sheriff's Office in August of 2015?
I was a detective in our CID division.
And at that time, in August of 2015, did you have any opportunity to respond to any homicide that occurred on Fensbury Drive?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you asked to do some follow-up work by some of the lead detectives in that case?
Yes, I was.
And what were you asked to do?
I was asked to research some transactions that were made earlier that day.
Okay, and what was the purpose of that? To locate or identify what?
The victim and his whereabouts that afternoon,
Okay,
that evening.
specifically, were you asked to look for some video footage that may or may not exist capturing that individual?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know the person who you were trying to locate video of?
No, I did not.
What was his name?
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, if I said the name Robert Deans, does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know that person at all?
No, ma'am.
And did you have any involvement in the investigation of his death directly?
No, I did not.
Where did you go to attempt to collect video of this individual?
I went to the Publix on Ehrlich Road, and I also went to, I believe it was a Chinese restaurant right next door in that same plaza. I also went to an auto parts store, and I believe that was it.
Okay, I'm going to show you some photographs that have already been entered into evidence. States Exhibit 71A. Do you recognize this?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you recognize that?
That's the Publix.
Okay, and is this a screenshot from that video that you personally went to obtain at that Publix on Ehrlich?
Yes, ma'am.
And just a couple other photographs, 71D. Is this also a screenshot that you recognize from obtaining that video?
Yes, ma'am.
While you were at the Publix that day, in addition to obtaining the video from the Publix, did you also get something else from them?
I believe I got the receipt for the transaction that was made.
Or Sergeant Prez, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as States Exhibit 30 for identification.
Hey, guess what?
Yes, ma'am.
He went to the store.
This is the receipt from the Publix.
You're gonna remove movement evidence, States Exhibit 30.
Was it him that went to the store, or was it she that went to the store?
You may publish it.
All right, Detective or Sergeant, sorry about that.
That's fine.
When you obtained this receipt from the Publix on that date, did you make note in your report of the date and time noted on the receipt?
Yes, ma'am.
Did that date and time also appear to coincide with the date and time from the video you obtained?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you recall the date to be?
The date was August 18th, 2015. The time was 2016 hours, which is 8:16 in the evening.
So you said that you went to the Publix, obtained this video and this receipt, and then I believe next you said you went to a China Walk next door.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to obtain any video from that location?
The owner was unable to give me a copy of the video, but I was able to view the video.
When you viewed that video, what did you observe?
I observed the victim walking into the China Walk and also placing an order.
The same individual that we just saw in States Exhibit 71 in the screenshots.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that individual alone in that video,
Yes, ma'am.
as he was in the Publix video?
Yes, ma'am.
After the China Walk, I believe you said you went to an auto parts store,
Yes, I believe it was Pep Boys.
okay? And were you able to obtain a video at that location?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you view that video?
I did.
And what did it depict?
Same thing. The victim walking into the store alone, making a transaction, and then leaving the store.
On that same date, August the 18th?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, nothing further.
Ross?
No questions, thank you.
May this witness be excused by the state?
She may be by the defense judge.
She can be released by the state judge.
Okay, you may step down. You may be released as a witness. at
So
this
he
time.
went to the Publix.
State, call your next witness.
I think you just have one
Okay.
more.
Yes.
Judge, the state will call Wesley Zachary at this time.
Wesley Zachary. Mr. Zachary, good morning and welcome, sir. You'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable. If you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff around to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. When you get to the chair, go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. If you have any stuff you need to take out and unpack, you can do that, and let me know when you're ready, and I'll allow the attorney's office to ask you some questions.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If you could please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Yes, Wesley Zachary Jr., last name spelled Zackery.
Thank you. Are you employed?
Yes, I'm employed with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office Identification Section Latent Print Unit.
And what is your
Oh,
position
boy.
with the sheriff's office?
I'm a forensic print analyst.
How long have you been employed as a forensic print analyst?
6 years, over
just
6 years.
Told you what he
And is that
was.
6 years just with the sheriff's office?
Yes,
Tell us about your prior employment in that field.
I've been with the Tallahassee Police Department as an identification technician where I process crime scene for the purpose of identifying latent prints and compare those prints. 2 years with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office prior to my term now. 11 years with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement here in Tampa Bay as a crime laboratory analyst where I worked in the latent print section, developing latent prints, own evidence, and then comparing those latent prints.
So in total, how long have you been conducting
He's
analysis and
practiced
examinations
that.
of latent fingerprints?
Over 25 years.
Tell us about your background and training in that area to qualify you as a latent print analyst.
I attended the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Science of Fingerprint course, the FBI Basic Latent Print Identification course, the International Association for Identification Administrative Advanced Latent Print Identification course, an advanced latent print course offered by the Ocala Police Department and Mr. Gary W. Jones, a palm print identification symposium offered by Mr. Ron Smith in association with the International Association for Identification. I've attended numerous educational conferences with the International Association for Identification and the Florida Division of the International
Lord.
Association for
Are you
Identification,
done,
where I
sir?
once served as the District 2 Director.
As a part of your job as a latent print analyst, are you also required to stay up to date on continuing education in the field?
Yes, I am.
And are you current with that?
Yes,
Do you also stay up to date as new technology or advancements are made in the field?
yes.
Tell us, as a fingerprint analyst, a latent print analyst, what are your day-to-day duties and responsibilities?
I compare latent and ink prints of comparison value to known individuals, known impressions for the purpose of identification or exclusion, and then I issue a report to my findings.
Judge, I would ask if the defense has any questions in this area before I proceed. I do not.
All right, you may proceed.
Mr. Zachary, I want to turn your attention back to August of 2015. Were you employed in the same capacity as a latent print analyst that you described for us here today at that time?
Yes, I was.
Did you have an opportunity to become involved in a case involving a subject known as Nicole Nachtman?
Yes, I was.
Did you ever respond to any actual scene in this case?
No, I did not.
Where did your work in this case take place?
In my office at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office identification section.
Did you obtain prints in this case to compare to what you would later obtain as known prints?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any involvement with crime scene technicians at the actual scene who are responsible for trying to lift latent prints?
Not in this case, I have not.
Okay. And in this case, did you have any role in telling them where to lift prints from or being involved in what locations they were lifting them from during the actual investigation?
No.
If you could tell us, what is the difference between latent prints and known prints?
A latent print is a chance or unintentional impression of the friction-rich skin on the bottom of your hand and feet that are transferred to a surface when it comes in contact. It is usually invisible to the naked eye. Will require some type of forensic powder, dye stain, or alternate light source to make it visible. A known impression is the actual recording of your fingerprint friction-rich skin by either covering it with ink or applying it on some type of digital platform as a live scan for the purpose of identification.
Good Lord.
Were you given latent prints in this case?
Yes, I was.
So you've indicated a latent print is sort of something that could be left by chance, I believe is the words that you used. Does that mean that every time we touch a surface, we're leaving behind latent prints?
There are several factors that could preclude you from leaving latent prints, such as the weather condition outside might be too hot, you might be perspiring too much, which will leave a black blob or a dark spot. You're not perspired enough to leave any of the moisture that's on your hands onto that surface. It might be raining, latent prints are fragile, it could be wiped away. It might be cold outside, so you may have some type of covering over your hands that could deter the depositing of that latent print on the surface. So there's a 50-50 chance that a latent print could be present on the surface.
Is it also accurate to say that sometimes when we touch something, we may leave behind what could be a print, but that it's not of a sufficient quality to be compared to anything?
Yes.
The latent prints that you received in this case, if you could, tell us what crime scene investigators collected those latent prints and from what locations?
I can refer to my notes, Your Honor.
To refresh your recollection, you may.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I received prints from crime scene investigator Shelby Garman, crime scene investigator Matthew Evans, crime scene investigator Brendan Douglas, crime scene investigator Jennifer Norman.
And were all of those prints that you received taken from locations inside of a home or on the exterior of that home?
Yes,
How did those latent prints come to you? In what form?
they were brought over by either the crime scene investigator themselves or one of the individuals from that section.
But how were those prints actually given to you? On a paper, on items of evidence? Explain that.
Yes, they were all latent lift cards except for one. One was a digital photograph.
Okay. Do you recall what that digital photograph was of?
Yes, it was of a latent print that was on a wall.
So a digital photograph of a print as well as latent lift cards, are those both common ways for you to receive potential latent prints?
Yes,
The locations from where those prints were collected within that home, did you have any personal knowledge of that, or do you just rely on whatever is written on the cards that they give you?
just what is documented on the back of the cards.
Okay. And in this case, did you personally obtain known prints from Nicole Nachtman?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Zachary, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 65 for identification. You could take a look at those items and let me know if you recognize them.
Baby, it's cold outside.
Yes, I did.
Okay, how do you recognize them?
It has my name on it and my ABN number, which is given to me by the Sheriff's Department 4791, and the date that I recorded the prints, which would have been January 15th, 2019.
Okay, and what do those appear to be to you?
These are the known impressions that I recorded of Ms. Nicole Nachtman,
Okay, and on what date did you record those prints?
January 15th, 2019.
Okay, Your Honor, this time State would ask to move into evidence State's Exhibit 65.
No objection?
No, sir.
There'll be a debate.
Mr. Zachary, do you see the individual in court today who you lifted these prints from in State's Exhibit 65?
Yes, I do.
You could point to her and identify an article of clothing that she's wearing.
It is the young lady at the table with the glasses on and a teal sweater.
Your Honor, may the record reflect he's identified in the defendant.
The record shall show as well.
So with these that we have in State's Exhibit 65,
It's not
would
nice
these
to
then
point,
be referred
sir.
to as the known prints of Nicole Nachtman?
Yes, they would.
And you indicated that you personally collected these prints from her on January 15th of 2019.
That is correct.
And we see prints here on the front and the back, and then also a second page, left hand, front and back of the entire hand. And then it also appears that we see individual prints. Is that correct?
Yes.
Using these known prints in States Exhibit 65, did you then compare them to latent prints that you received in this case?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right, Mr. Zachary, I'm going to give you 3 items, and I'm going to take them one at a time. We could start with States Exhibit number 32.
It's
and you look
cold
at that item and tell me what it is.
outside.
It is a digital image of a latent print.
Okay, and does that appear to be you reference a digital image of a latent print that you obtained from crime scene investigator Garmin in this case? Is that what that appears to be?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
No.
Do you recognize markings on it that indicate that that is in fact latent print that you analyzed in this case?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll come back to that one. Go ahead and take a look at States Exhibit number 33. And what do those latent prints appear to be?
These are latent prints of palm prints.
Okay, collected by which crime scene investigator?
These were collected by crime scene investigator Jennifer Norman.
Okay, and are there markings on those that indicate that you have also analyzed those?
Yes.
So put those back and look at States Exhibit 34 for me.
I hate when they open
Recognize
evidence
what's in
because
States
it's boring
Exhibit
and it takes
Yes, I-
too
What do those appear to
long.
be?
It's a latent print on a palm.
Okay, collected by which crime scene investigator?
Crime scene investigator Brendan Douglas.
Okay, and do you see markings on that that indicate that you have also received that item?
Yes.
And all back to me. All right, Mr. Zachary, I'm going to start with States Exhibit number 32. You indicated that this was a digital photo of a latent skin. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, collected by crime scene investigator Garmin.
that's correct.
At the top, we see hallway near southwest BR bedroom, it appears. Do you see that?
Yes.
On this item, do you see markings? Where are the markings you see that indicate that you worked on it?
It would be the O with the slash through it, number 6, Nicole Nachtman, a number of 2015-CF-012204, taken on January 15, 2019 by myself, my ABN number, and then the date that I did the comparison, which would be January 16, 2019.
Okay, and when you say did the comparison, did you compare this print in States Exhibit 32 to the known prints that you've already identified in States Exhibit 65?
Yes, I did.
And in doing that comparison, did you follow all of the training and procedure that you've previously described for us?
Yes, I used the ACE protocol, which is analyze, compare, and evaluate.
Okay, and what were the results of that comparison? Can we bridge?
You may.
Oh, goody. I love when you approach. I love it.
Mr. Zachary, prior to you answering that last question, if you could tell us in States Exhibit 32, what and if I need to put up an item from let me do it this way. States Exhibit 32, could you identify what finger or what digit that was?
Yes,
And what was it?
that would be the number 6 or left thumb.
6 of the left thumb.
Number 6 finger of the left thumb.
I'm gonna put up States Exhibit 65, a portion of that.
The sixth finger
Is that capturing the left thumb?
of the
Yes, it is.
left
Okay.
thumb.
So in States Exhibit 32 and States Exhibit 65,
I don't
that we
understand
see
what that
here,
means.
if you could tell us what similarities or characteristics you noticed about these two prints.
What I did is I first analyzed the print to see if it was of value for comparison. Once I determined that it was of value for comparison, I did a side-by-side of the known print, which is in State Exhibit number 65, to the latent print, which is States number 32. I was looking for individual characteristics within the latent print to the known print. Those characteristics would have to be such things as what we call friction ridges, or Galton details, Indian ridges, which is a pattern, and application, which is a ridge that come into a pattern, split off into 2 separate ridges, and then continue out through the pattern. A dot that looks just like a period. A short ridge starts at one section of the pattern, travels a short distance, and then stop. And then an enclosure, which is a bifurcation that breaks apart, travels a short distance, and then reconnects and continues to flow. I would look for those individual characteristics in both the latent print and the known print. They must share the same spatial relationship, unit relationship, which means they must have the same number of ridges between them, be in the same local area, and have no unexplainable discrepancies present, which means that a ridge is present in one that is not present in the other. Once I come to the conclusion that I did my side-by-side comparison, and I found those similarities in both the latent print and the e-print, I then came to the conclusion that they were made by the same source.
Okay. The things that you've talked about, the bifurcations, the dots, the different characteristics, are those things that you've all been trained on through your training as a latent print analyst?
Yes,
And are
Probably.
those all principles that are readily accepted in this scientific field?
yes, it is.
So this time I would ask you, what were the results of your comparison of those things?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Mr. Zachary, in States Exhibit 32 and 65, you just described the various characteristics that you look for. If you could tell us specifically in this print number, States Exhibit 32, what exact characteristics, points, dots, things that you just described, did you see when you compared 32 and 65?
I saw Indian ridges and bifurcations were most of the things that I saw in both the latent print and the known print.
Okay, in this specific item of evidence?
Yes.
And was it based on those two things that you saw that you reached your conclusion?
Once I determined that I did not see any unexplainable discrepancy, I came to the opinion that they came from the same source. They were made by the same source.
Okay, so it was your opinion that States Exhibit 65 was the source of the latent print in States 32?
That is correct.
Mhm.
I'm going to move on now to States Exhibit 33, which you described as latent print cards obtained by crime scene analyst Jennifer Norman, or crime scene investigator Jennifer Norman. Specifically, I'm going to show you the back of the print card that identifies her name, Ms. Norman's name, and open bedroom window, southeast bedroom. Now, you've already indicated to us that you were not present when these prints were lifted, correct?
That is correct.
But you rely on whatever is written on these cards.
What is documented? Yes.
Okay. So you indicated earlier that you saw markings on this that indicate that you made, or that indicate that you worked on these latent prints. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And specifically of those markings that we see here, where do we see markings by you that indicate that you came to conclusions on this item of evidence?
It'll be two places. The first is at the bottom of the card where you see a 0 with a slash, and it has L palm. That stands for left palm. It has Nicole Nachtman.
My hand is asleep.
2015-CF-012204, taken on January 15, 2019 by myself, and the date that I did comparison. And then up to the upper right section of the card, it has the slash again through 0, R palm, which stands for right palm. And it has Nicole Nachtman's name again with that same number, taken on January 15 by myself and compared on January 16, 2019.
Okay, so you've mentioned left palm and right palm. Did you then compare what we see in States Exhibit 32 to the known prints of, or to the known left and right palm prints of Nicole Nachtman?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and showing you the right palm here, are these your initials and markings down towards the bottom left?
Yes.
Okay, and the left palm, same thing.
Yes.
Okay, so in comparing these two items, what characteristic similarities did you observe in reaching your ultimate conclusion in this case?
As far as with the left palm, I noticed creases also that are present that are underneath the thumb and what we would call the thinner area of the palm. The palm is sectioned off into 3 areas. The area underneath the fingers, which we call the interdigital, the area up under the thumb, which is called a thenar, and then the area up under the little finger, which is called a hypothenar. This first one was under the left palm. It has creases along with also those other characteristics that I stated earlier, as far as the inner ridges, bifurcations, dots, enclosures, or short ridge. And on the right palm, it would be the right thenar area up under the right little finger, which is a long-looking egg-shaped print. And once again, it has those same characteristics: the inner ridges, palm, inner ridges, bifurcations, dot, enclosures, and short ridges.
Based on those described that you observed both in the known prints
Stop
and in
it.
States 33, what was your opinion as to these two items?
No.
That they were made by the same source.
That being
Sir.
Nicole Nachtman, based on the known prints you have.
Yes.
Moving to States Exhibit 34.
Thank you.
On the back of States 34, we see markings and a B. Douglas in the bottom left corner. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
An indication of a dresser in northwest master bedroom. On the other side
Master.
of the card, tell us what
Did she
markings
just say-
you see that indicate that
What
you
did
worked
she
on
just
this
say?
item.
To the left, you will see, once again, the 0 through a slash, L for left palm, Nicole Nachtman, 2015-CF-01. Yes, I do.
An indication of a dresser in northwest master bedroom. On the other side of the card, tell us what markings you see that indicate that you worked on this.
She's a master
To the
bedroom.
left, you will see, once again, the 0 through a slash, L for left palm, Nicole Nachtman, 2015-CF-012204, taken on January 15, 2019 by myself and compared on January 16, 2019.
Okay, and so again, we're talking about palms, the
Yes.
left and right palm that we saw in State's Exhibit 65. What specific characteristics or similarities did you see in this latent print that you compared to State's Exhibit 65, the palm print?
As I stated before, this area right here would be what we call the hypothetical area, right up under the little finger. It will include a small portion of the interdigital area and then the lower portion of the large egg or the hypothetical area. It has those same inner ridges, bifurcations, dots, enclosures, and short ridges present in both the latent print and in the known print.
Okay, based on those bifurcations, ridges that you've described, did you reach an opinion as to State's Exhibit 34 and 65?
Yes, they came from the same source. Once again,
Okay, and again, that source being Nicole Nachtman based on the known prints you collected of her.
that is correct.
Showing you another latent print in State's Exhibit State's Exhibit 34. Again, looking at the back of the card, we see Brandon Douglas, master bedroom and dresser, top left drawer. In the front of that item, do you see markings that indicate that you also made comparisons on this latent print?
Yes,
Okay, and tell us about what you see that indicates that.
to the lower left, it has the 0 with a slash number 6, which stands for the left thumb. The name of Nicole Jean Nachtman, 2015-CF-012204, taken on January 15, 2019 by myself and compared on January 16, 2019.
And so the number 6, are you indicating the number 6 finger?
Yes, the number 6 finger or the left thumb.
What similarities and characteristics did you see between the known print and this latent print?
What the hell is the number 6 finger of the left thumb?
Once again, I noticed the inner ridges and bifurcations, dots in this case, also the formation of the pattern type, which will be a loop.
Okay, and what opinion did you reach based on that?
I came to the conclusion that they were made by the same source, Ms. Nicole Nachtman.
I'm going to show you another latent.
I mean, it was her house. Can her fingerprints not be in her house?
Lifted by, we see CSI Brandon Douglas, top drawer, second column from left of dresser in northwest bedroom. Do you see markings on this item that indicate that you also made comparisons or analysis of this latent print?
Yes.
And tell us about what you see.
It, once again, we have the 0 with the slash is a known standard we use in the latent print discipline. Left palm, it has Nicole Jean Nachtman, 2015-CF-012204, taken on January 15th by myself and compared on January 16, 2019.
Okay. And so again, we're talking about the left palm that we previously saw in State 65. What similarities or characteristics did you observe in reaching your conclusion as to these two items?
That it came from the left palm, almost the center area of the palm from Ms. Nicole Nachtman. It came from the same source. I noticed those inner ridges and bifurcations.
Okay. And based on that, what was your conclusion?
They came from the same source on Ms. Nicole Nachtman.
Based on the known prints you had in State 65.
That is correct.
Again,
Thank you, Mr. Zachary. Nothing further. I'll pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
Yes, thank you, Judge.
this is her house, right? Shh, her
Come on
fingerprints
now.
would be in her house, right?
Now, you wrote a report in this case, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And in your report, you have identified the latent.
What's wrong with your hair?
That you matched to Ms. Nachtman, is that correct?
Yes,
And you actually also list, and you discussed today, where the prints were lifted from.
which was documented on the back of cards. Yes,
And Ms. Derry had asked you earlier, those are not cards that you create or prints that you lift from a scene.
no, they are not.
You're relying on what a crime scene technician does at a crime scene, who then submits these latent print cards to you to examine later.
Yes,
Now, in your report, you did not list the prints that you examined but found to be of no comparison value. Is that correct?
no, not in my second report.
Okay. And just so we're clear, these were not all the prints you were given. You were given many more.
Yes,
Some were of no comparison value,
that is correct.
and some you were able to match to other known prints you had been provided in this case.
Yes,
Now, as far as the 3 sets of known prints you were given, Ms. Nachtman, you indicated was one.
yes,
You were also given the known prints for Miriam Deans
yes, that's correct.
and the known prints for Robert Deans.
Yes,
Now, when you were given these 3 sets of known prints, you were not aware that these 3 people were actually residents of that home. Is that correct?
that is correct. No,
And you'd agree as a print examiner, obviously, if 3 people live in a home, it's going to be, it's not going to be uncommon for those residents or the people who occupy that home to leave prints throughout the house if they live there.
that is correct.
Now, as far as the total prints you were given from the scene, do you have all the prints with you?
No, I do not.
Okay. Is it fair to say that you were given, if you remember, 13 lists from Brandon Douglas?
I would have to see the lift card or the lift envelope itself to determine that.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have that information.
But it was many more than what you have today in court, as you said a moment ago.
Yes,
In fact, you listed out, I believe it was 4 different crime scene technicians who submitted latent print cards for you to examine.
that is correct.
And the ones you testified today, are the ones that were of comparison value and that you indicated were made by Nicole Nachtman.
That is correct.
Now, when we say something's not of comparison value, it basically means when you look at the print that the crime scene investigator lifts from the scene, there isn't enough rich detail for you to make any sort of comparison.
There's not enough information to be compared. That is correct, yes.
Now, as far as your formal education, you completed high school, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
No degrees or college or any special training after that, other than what you talked about through your employment history.
Yes.
Are you certified with the International Association for Identification for Fingerprint Examiners?
No, I'm not.
Now, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office Fingerprint Division, do they currently hold an independent certification from an accreditation board?
Not for latent prints, no.
And that's basically like a certification by an accreditation board, for example, like the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has, where an outside board kind of reviews procedures, makes sure that everything's kind of up and coming with the technology and with the advancements of science in your field. Is that correct?
Mostly it would be for the documentation so that the evidence or the progress that you're doing in your lab could be documented and shown that you are following your documented procedures or the guidelines that the agency or the accreditation body is suggesting.
And the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office does not hold such a certification. You're a latent print examining unit, correct?
Only one if they are up on the CALIA, but there are other ones.
Now, as far as the identifications you made in this case, it's fair to say your ability to analyze a print is largely based on the quality or how the crime scene technician lifts the print from the scene, correct?
It would basically be on the quality of the print and also on the known standards themselves, yes.
And in fact, you testified already that several of the prints,
That's correct, yes.
again, the lighting, the quality of the photograph, all of those things come into play when you're examining a print that is produced in a photograph.
Yes,
Now, you identified prints in this case to Miriam Deans, is that correct?
yes, I did.
You have your report in front of you?
Yes, I do.
If you need to refresh your memory, let me know. You were able to identify prints belonging to Miriam Deans from a top left drawer in the northwest master bedroom of a dresser.
Yes, I did.
Again, the same master bedroom that we see documented in some of the print cards you testified to that you said belonged to Nicole Nachtman.
That's correct.
You also identified a print belonging to Miriam Deans from a Clorox wipe container under the kitchen sink.
That is correct.
Again, not odd if these people live in a home that their prints are going to be on these various items.
That is correct.
So I don't really understand what the
Now,
point
when
of it
you
was.
were given the print that CSI Garmin took the photograph of and submitted to you, you're again examining this latent print, and again, it was identified as the photograph of a print from the hallway. Is that how it was documented? As
Yes,
far as its location?
that's correct, yes.
And you're actually examining, are you using a microscope, a magnifying glass? What are you using when you're looking at that photograph or that depiction of this print in the hallway?
I'm using what was called a forensic glass. It can either be 4, 6, 8 times magnification.
So it's magnified.
That's correct.
And it's fair to say you did not observe any blood or any foreign substance on that print when you examined it under your magnifying glass. Is
No.
that correct?
I just had a digital photograph.
Okay, but you did not, when you're examining it within the digital photograph, didn't see any evidence of blood or any foreign substances in that print when you looked at it.
I did not have that information, so no.
You did not see it.
I can't say that I saw blood or anything like that. The only thing I say is that I had a digital photograph.
Mr. Zachary, do you remember giving a deposition in this case?
Yes,
Back in July of 2017?
yes,
And I believe I was there asking you questions, or in fact, it was actually Ms. Holt. Do you remember Ms. Holt asking you questions?
yes, I do.
Okay. We were asking you questions specifically about that print that CSI Garmin took the photograph in the hallway.
Yes,
If I show you that deposition transcript, will it refresh your memory as to whether you were able to see blood or a foreign substance in that print when you examined it?
if I can see it, yes.
Okay, Judge, if I can approach the board.
Bless you.
Or a foreign substance when you examined that print by CSI Garmin?
Yes, ma'am. And I said no, that I could not.
You could not observe any blood or foreign substance?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, there was also another print, and it was a print, again, lifted by CSI Garmin from the kitchen counter behind the couch. Do you recall examining that print?
Yes, I did.
And in fact, you compared that print to, again, the three known sets of known prints you were given. Nicole Nachtman's prints, Miriam Deans' prints, and Robert Deans' prints.
Yes,
And that print, you were able to exclude all three of those people as having been the source of that print.
that is correct.
So one of the prints in this case, we don't know who it belongs to as we sit here today.
That is correct. Yes.
I can have a moment, Judge?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Mr. Beckman.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused by the state
Yes, sir.
and by the defense.
Yes, sir.
here, good morning and welcome. If you'll come forward to be sworn, wherever you're comfortable, if you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear affirmative testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. You'll follow the bailiff around the ramp that leads up to the witness chair. Please watch your step. When you get to the chair, go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. That microphone does adjust if necessary.
Okay.
Sir, if you could please state your name and spell your last name for the court reporter.
David Lair, L-E-H-R.
And where do you live, Mr. Lair?
I just moved to Zephyr Hills, Florida. I used to live in Carrollton.
Speak up, sir. He's nervous.
And back in 2015, where did you live?
In Carrollwood.
Both settings. And what do you do currently for a living?
I work at Greenco Manufacturing. I build pneumatic cylinders. I've been there since 2003 and going on 17 years now.
Judgement.
So back in 2015, you said you lived on Country Brook Street?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 67. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes.
What is that?
It's a map of Carrollwood, I guess, and my house and Miriam's house.
Okay, and so your house is depicted on that map?
Yes. At the
Okay,
top,
which
and
one is it?
the one at the top, and the one at the bottom is Miriam's house.
And does this picture fairly and accurately depict what the roads and everything looks like in this area?
Yes, it is.
Judge Moon, that State's Exhibit 67 minute evidence.
Objection. Give you a minute.
All right, so I'm going to point at the map here. So this would be where your home was
Yes.
located back in 2015?
Yes, correct.
And down here, you identify that as being the residence of Nicole and Miriam?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, Mr. Lair, do you know the defendant, Nicole Nachtman?
Yes.
How do you know her?
She's my cousin.
Explain how she's your cousin, what the family relation is.
Her mom is my dad's brother, which makes her my aunt on my dad's side.
What's your dad's name?
Pete Lair.
Would you say, in the course of growing up as cousins, that you and Nicole Nachtman were close?
Yes. Yes.
Would you see her frequently?
Yes.
If she was in town, say from school, would she come visit, or would you go visit her?
Yes, both.
Did you know Bob Dean's her stepdad?
Yes.
And how well did you know him?
I've known him since he was married to her, I guess, and I knew her, obviously through my aunt, and I would hang out with him. That year, like frequently, I would help him with, I go over there, watch movies, we have barbecues, or I help him with. He was older, so I helped him with house chores, remodifications, stuff like that.
How often would you say you would go by the house to visit and to work and help him?
Him specifically, just whenever, but I went over there a couple times a month, I guess, 2 or 3 times a month.
2 or 3 times a month?
Yeah.
So you're familiar with his appearance, what he looks like?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's already been introduced to State's Exhibits 71A through D. Ask you to take a look at that.
Okay.
Do you recognize the person in those photos?
Yes.
Who is this person?
It's Robert Dean.
And have you previously viewed a video from a Publix that you identified this individual?
Yes. Yes.
Now, back in August of 2015, were you still working at the same place you're working now?
Yes.
And during that summer of 2015, would you see Mrs. Nachtman from time to time?
Yes.
Okay, approximately how many times, say, in a week would you see Mrs. Nachtman? Or if you see her, or in a month for that?
Like I said, 2 or 3 times a month, I guess. If she was at school, obviously I wouldn't see her. I know that she went out of town earlier that year, so. But when she was in town, she came by.
The week of the murders, were you in contact with Nicole Nachtman at any time during that time?
Yes, it was.
When was the last, or when during that week do you recall being in contact?
The Friday before, I went to their house.
Okay.
And also the last time I saw her was on Wednesday, the week of the murders.
Okay, well, let's go back to the Friday before that, since you mentioned that. Who all was present when you were there that Friday?
Bob, Valley, and me, all 3 of them.
Yeah, you say Valley. Who's Valley?
I'm Miriam.
Is that the nickname that the family gives you?
Yeah.
Alright.
That's her middle name.
That's what?
Her middle name is Valencia, so they call her Valley. And that's why I call her her.
Okay. So all 3 were present when you were there on that Friday?
Yes.
Did you observe while you were there that Friday any sort of
Miriam
consternation, anything
Valencia.
that gave you concern?
No, it wasn't.
It's a very unique
Everyone seemed to be
name.
getting along and everything's fine?
Yeah, at that time, yeah.
How long were you there that Friday?
Probably a little over an hour, I guess.
Now, you said the next time you saw her that week was on a Wednesday. What were the circumstances about that?
I was at work, and I guess sometime in the morning she had called me. So I was too busy to get the phone. So after the call was over, I texted her and I told her that I'm at work, that I'm busy. What's going on? And then she texted me. She wanted to know if she could talk to me or whatever. And then I said, okay. I said, how about after work? And she said, fine. And that was it.
Okay. So what time did you get off work that day?
I imagine 2:00.
Okay.
Yeah. Started 2:30, somewhere in there.
2 or 2:30?
Yeah.
And did you head straight home?
Yes, I did.
About approximately what time did you get home?
I think it was around 3 that day.
And did you call Nicole Nachtman back?
I totally forgot to call her back. I just it slipped my mind. So as I was coming home, I was pulling into the driveway. The phone rang. It was her, and then I remembered that she texted me. So then I answered the phone. She just asked me what I was doing, if she can come by, and I kind of asked her. Yeah, I said, yeah, it's fine. What's going on? And then she asked me. She told me something about if she could borrow money for her dorm room. So I had money on me.
Did she tell you how much she needed?
$100.
Oh, this is the neighbor. She asked for money.
Okay. So what did you tell her?
I told her, I said, yeah, come on by. She said she was gonna come right away. So I said, okay, I'll wait in the driveway.
So you never even went in your house then?
No, at that time, no.
And did she show up shortly after talking to you?
She did. Like immediately, like probably about 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes. And after she showed up, and how did she seem?
Just normal, her regular demeanor.
Regular demeanor?
Yeah.
Right. Did she seem upset, crying, anything like that?
No. I just knew that she needed to borrow the money. So she showed up, she gave me a hug, and I said, she said she needed the money. I gave it to her. I made a joke because there was a state trooper parked next to the house. He watches over students and coming off the buses and stuff like that. So I made a joke that, I'm like, I gave her $100. It looks like a drug deal or something. It's just suspicious there. So she said, thanks. We talked about she's going back to school. So then I asked her when she's coming back, probably around Thanksgiving. And I said, okay, basically I'll see you around Thanksgiving. And she said, okay. Gave me a hug, and she got back in the car and left.
Okay. Did she tell you when she was going back to school or heading up to class?
She did right away. She's going back, like from my house, she's going back to school.
Do you recall what kind of car she drove at that time?
A red Prius.
Is that what car she showed up in when she came to borrow the money?
Yes.
About how long would you say you guys talked for that moment?
About 5 minutes, yes. Pretty sure.
And when she left, did she seem fine?
Yeah.
Was that the last time you saw Nicole Nachtman?
Yes. It was.
Did Ms. Nachtman ever talk to you about any issues or problems she was having with her mother?
No, not probably that. Things like the money when she borrowed it, she didn't want to ask her mom, but and then normal things when she would come over, once in a while she would, I could tell that she didn't want to tell her mom stuff, like every other kid, like you don't tell your parents everything, so things like that. It was to me it was no big deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you eventually hear that Miriam and Bob had been killed?
Friday, right before lunch, my cousin called me and gave me the news. I know it was like exactly 11:20 because I was just about to go to lunch. I was getting ready for lunch. My coworkers were actually calling me to come down, and I had to I told them I can't go to lunch. I'm on the phone, and that's when I found out.
Okay.
So
what did
very
you do?
specific, yeah.
What did you do upon finding out that they had passed?
I left work and I went straight to the house, to Miriam's house.
And what did you see when you got there?
It was surrounded by media and police and sheriff everywhere. The whole section was closed off.
Right. Did after you found out about the murders, did you ever talk to Nicole again?
I did, actually.
When did you talk to her?
Well, after I showed up at the house, the police, they asked me a bunch of questions. They started making it seem like
Objection to hearsay?
Well, I'll caution the witness not to speculate or to testify to what somebody else told you unless specifically asked you. Go ahead and re-ask the question.
All right. So based on your conversations with the law enforcement officers, you felt you needed to contact Nicole?
they started asking me a lot of questions about Nicole. And I felt like like she was a suspect. So I told him that, I tried to tell him no, like, I didn't believe that would be her. So, like, it's not her way at all. So, I kind of like try to tell him, no, I know that's not what happened. Like, basically like trying to eliminate her from being a suspect, whatever. So, after, but they just listened to me and they walked away. And then, I guess when I left, I went back, I called her brother, which is my cousin, Joseph Carey. And I told,
Okay, go ahead, finish it.
I told him, what just happened. And then, after I hung up with him, I called Nikki and I only spoke to her for a minute.
Okay, when you say Nikki, that's Nicole.
Nicole, yeah, Nicole.
And what was that conversation like when you called her?
With Nicole?
Mhm.
Well, I told her, I said, my actual words to her were like, hey, Nikki, I said, I just got off the phone with your brother and, he told me that you guys just had a conversation.
Hearsay as to what the brother said.
That's what I'm saying. I was just saying, don't tell us what somebody else said.
Okay, yeah, no,
Go ahead, wait, hold on, just rephrase the reality.
I'll rephrase the question. So, without telling us what you told her specifically about what anyone else told you, what was the basis of the conversation?
well, okay, so I, with all the information I had, I was worried about her. Like, the police said they're actually looking.
Objection to hearsay.
Well, the police were looking for a
Wait,
gun.
no, hold on.
Yeah, don't say again. Don't say what anyone else told you, but
Okay.
just go on what was your belief? What were you trying to do at that time?
I was just trying to calm her down. I didn't want something to happen at her school.
Okay. And while you were talking with her, what did she say to you?
I told her that the sheriffs are showing up. They're going to come talk to her. They're going to bring her down. And she said they were already there. So since the sheriff's officer was already there, I knew I relaxed. I was fine.
All right. And so at that point, you all terminated the conversation.
Yeah.
Is that the last time you ever talked to her?
Yes.
You mentioned Joseph Carey. Are you friends with Joseph?
He's my cousin.
He's your cousin?
And yeah, we're close.
Would you say you all are close to?
Yeah.
You all talk a lot?
Yeah.
Get together when he's in town?
Yeah, always.
Judge, let me have one moment. Absolutely. Judge, we're good with fast witness.
All right, cross-examination.
Morning, Mr. Laird.
Hi.
Just so we're clear, the family history, it's your father, Peter,
Yes.
who was Miriam Dean's brother,
Yes.
and there's 5 total kids
Yeah.
that belong to your grandmother, I guess.
Well, six.
Six.
Five boys and one girl. Yeah.
6 total before Ms. Dean passed away.
Yes.
Now, you told us a little bit about your relationship with Ms. Dean's.
Okay.
And I believe Mr. Terry just asked you about your relationship with Nicole's brother, Joey.
Yes.
You guys were more similar in age. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Growing up?
Yeah.
There's a pretty big age difference between you and Nicole, however.
Yes.
In fact, I think you all are
16, 17.
16 or 17 years apart.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the other family, your mom's siblings, you do not speak to your Uncle Eric, is that correct?
Yeah. Well, my dad's side.
Your dad's side.
Yeah. Not my mom's.
Eric Lear is your dad's brother,
Yes.
and you all do not speak?
For a while. Yeah.
Okay. And then at one point, you lived with your grandmother, Miriam. And so you and Nicole share a grandmother,
Yes.
and her name is also Miriam.
Yes.
And she actually raised you for portions of your life, I think, till you were in 6th grade.
Yes.
However, you don't speak to her now either.
No.
Now, your father, Peter, was in the Navy,
Yes.
and he was actually discharged from the military because of some type of mental health diagnosis. Is that correct?
I think so. I'm not sure.
You also don't speak to your Uncle George?
Just
object is irrelevant at this point.
You can approach.
it's been a while, but for no reason, just no context.
And so George, just so we're clear again, because I know we said it a minute ago, but your brother Peter has siblings George,
Mhm.
Eric, let me get them all,
And
Albert,
Yes.
and then there was Miriam who passed.
Yes.
And out of all of those uncles or aunts that you had, while you indicated you would go over to Miss Dean's home and help Bob around the house,
Mhm.
you do not speak to 2 of those uncles, which is George and Eric,
Well.
or haven't spoken to them in a long time.
Yeah, but George, actually, I just ran into George because I'm now living out in Zephyr Hills with my dad. He came to pick them up. They went out to breakfast, and I saw him briefly.
But you don't
But
do
no.
Thanksgivings and Christmases and
No.
holidays and things like
Oh,
that together.
no.
And then you don't speak to your grandmother.
No.
Now, you mentioned that you would see Nicole occasionally, at least after college when she was home.
Yes.
Okay. And we've already talked about how you all are about 17 years apart. So as far as age-wise, you and Joey were the 2 that were closer in age.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that you saw Nicole periodically, I guess, throughout her childhood.
Yes.
But I'm assuming it's fair to say you didn't see her when they lived in Virginia.
Oh, I did. I went out there a couple times.
Okay, but not regularly, like
No.
every weekend
No,
or
definitely.
holidays.
No.
If she was home on a vacation or if you happened to go up and visit, but you weren't seeing her regularly when she lived in Virginia.
No.
You weren't seeing her regularly when she lived in Texas.
No.
You weren't seeing her regularly when she was at the Air Academy or that boarding school that your aunt sent her to.
I would go out there for weekends when my aunt couldn't make it.
Okay.
My aunt would actually pay for the like hotel room. That way Nikki could hang out with me and my family. And
At the Air Academy?
Yeah.
Okay, how many times do you think you saw Nicole while she was at the Air Academy?
Probably 3 or 4 times.
Okay,
We had a hotel room.
and then she goes to FSU in about 2013.
Yeah.
So for the time period of when she began Florida State or college, you're seeing her if she happens to come down for the weekend or for a holiday.
Yeah.
But you're not seeing her every week or every day
No.
while she's in college, because Tallahassee's
Yeah.
4 hours away.
Right.
Okay. Now, you indicated the week of your aunt's death, Nicole contacted you while you were at work initially, and it was about noon
Yes.
on that Wednesday. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
And then you were at work, so you had indicated through text or some method that you call her back later.
Yeah. Through text, I told her to call her back.
And then you forgot to.
Yes.
So then she called you again, and it was about 3:00 by the time you all speak again.
Yes.
And it was that she needed to borrow $100 for her dorm up in college.
Yes.
She had actually borrowed money from you one time before to fix a cell phone, so this wasn't super odd, correct?
Right.
She came to your house to get the money, correct?
Yes.
And she actually told you that she was supposed to sign up for her dorm room, but had forgotten or had, not done it and needed the money for the fee for the dorm, correct?
Yeah. There was something about not doing it in time, so it was a $100 fee and she didn't have the money on her.
And she appeared nervous about the dorm thing when she's talking to you about it, correct?
Yeah, a little nervous about like she didn't want to, I guess she wanted to get everything settled and she didn't. She made a mistake and
She was nervous about that.
Yeah.
And nervous was normal for Nicole, right?
yes. When it comes to circumstances like that, yeah.
Now, when you were with her, you were only with her for about 5 minutes, you said,
Yes.
and then she left.
Yes.
So this wasn't a 30-minute conversation or interaction, correct?
Seems like a pretty nervous person.
You've described your cousin as somebody who gets intimidated easily. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, she don't like conflict, so yeah.
Always tries to make everybody happy?
She does, yes.
Growing up, you don't remember your cousin having a lot of friends over or family parties or things like that where friends would come over, correct?
Not a lot of friends. She would have that, one friend, that she talked about here and there. Yeah.
Nobody, though, that you ever met or that came over for sleepovers or functions or anything that you ever saw?
Well, I used to give her a ride from school during her 8th grade year. And I saw that friend, and I actually gave that friend also a ride to her house. a couple
Okay,
times, yeah.
one time?
To the friend to her house one time, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you've seen one friend, one time that you gave a ride to in Nicole Nachtman's 21
Right.
years of life.
Yes, yes.
Your cousin also was somebody who didn't want to disappoint her mom. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Can you have a moment?
Yes, you may.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, may this witness be excused by the state
Yes, ma'am.
and by the defense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. You may be excused as a witness at this time.
Okay.
So with the jury, it is 10:30, so we are going to take our morning break. We'll take a 15-minute break. We'll resume at 10:45. Please do not discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Please do not do any research related to this, and please avoid any exposure to any reports about this case outside of the courtroom in media or social media or any other forms. All rise for the jury.
And we are going to go right into the next one because it is only 47 minutes. Judge takes care of juror issue. What juror issue? Ooh, spicy. Juror issue?
Ms. Battle, good morning and welcome. You'll come forward, please, to be sworn wherever you're comfortable. If you'll face me and raise your right hand
I
to be
don't know
sworn.
who she is.
Thank you. Do you swear affirm any testimony you've given this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you. You put your hand down. You'll follow the bailiff around to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair. Please watch your step.
The mic is fully adjustable.
When you get to the chair, go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. That microphone does adjust.
When does he start saying fully adjustable?
Mr. Chair, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning. If you could please tell the jury your name and spell your last name for the court reporter.
Okay, my name is Mariel Battle, Mariel, and Battle Battle.
And where do you currently live, Ms. Val?
Right now I'm living in Jacksonville, Florida.
And who do you live with in Jacksonville?
My parents and my sister.
And what are you currently doing now?
Currently, right now, I'm looking for an internship for the fall semester so I can graduate from FSU.
Okay, so are you still currently at Florida State University?
Yes, I'm currently enrolled.
Back in August of 2015, how old were you back then?
18.
And what were you doing around August of 2015?
I was basically moving into FSU, and I was in overflow housing at the time.
Oh,
So
she's
you had come from, were you
the
coming from Jacksonville?
roommate.
So have you lived in Jacksonville your whole life?
Yes,
And so what year were you entering?
my freshman year.
And you said you mentioned overflow housing. Tell the jury what overflow housing is.
So pretty much when I got in, well, I decided to go to FSU kind of late, and then they kind of put you in a lottery system if you're late and trying to get on campus housing. And so they, at the time, they didn't have a place for me to stay, but they did put me in overflow housing, which they kind of make like a makeshift room in one of their common rooms or study rooms in their residence halls. And at the time, I was in Smith Hall.
Okay, so you were in Smith all that time.
Yes.
And when you say they make a makeshift room in a study hall or study room, so they bring in beds, I'm assuming?
Yes, bunk beds.
Okay. How many people generally are in an overflow room?
They had about 2 sets of bunk beds, so I'm assuming probably for 4 people.
Okay. Do you recall the day you arrived at FSU to move in that freshman year?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Do you recall the date you arrived at Florida State to move in?
It was Wednesday, August 19th.
Okay, Wednesday, August 19th.
Mhm.
And did your parents come with you to help you move in?
Yes, my parents and my sister.
Okay. And where did you go when you got there on that Wednesday of 19th? Great.
They said to report to Smith Hall, so I went to like their I guess like lounge area to go and check in and tell them like, hey, I'm here, and they give you like the key and like their room report room, so that way it tells you like what's in the room, if there are any damages or something like that. And yeah, so you check in there and then you go upstairs to your room.
Okay. Do you recall on that Wednesday about when you got there? Was it morning, afternoon, evening?
I'm not 100% sure. I would say maybe around noon.
Okay. And did you start moving stuff into your overflow room?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you recall what room number it was?
I believe it was room 601.
When you moved into that room, was anyone else in that room?
I could see that there was another girl that was already living there, but she wasn't there at the time.
Okay. So that night, did you ever meet the other person who was living in that room?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What was her name?
Petra Henry.
And now these rooms that are overflow rooms, they're not intended for you, I guess, to live there the entire semester. There's just kind of to keep you there until they can move you into a permanent room.
Correct.
And so both you and Petra were in the same situation, just staying in that room.
Yes.
So that first night that you stayed there, that Wednesday night, who all was in that room with you that stayed there that night?
It was just me and Petra.
So how about the next day on Thursday? What did you do that Thursday?
Probably just after trying to set up everything, make sure I got everything, and I was hanging out with my parents and my sister to kind of like go and get little things that maybe we've forgotten for the move, and get me food as well that same day.
Okay. Now on Thursday night, did you stay back in that room again?
Yes, I did.
All right. And who all was with you that Thursday night? Who all stayed there?
Just me and Petra again. At that time, my parents left that Thursday.
So your parents they left on that Thursday?
The Thursday night, yes.
And when you went to bed that night, it was just you and Petra?
Yes.
The next morning, did anyone else move into that room?
Yes.
And this is Friday morning?
Yes.
Who was that person who moved in?
Nicole Nachtman.
Do you see her in the room here today?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know where to.
It's okay. I'm just asking if you see her. If you don't,
No, currently I do not see her.
all right.
Oh, I see her right there. Sorry.
Okay, where is she? What is she wearing? What is she?
She's wearing a blue sweater with a white button-down top.
Record reflections identified the defendant, Judge.
It's teal.
And the first time you saw Ms. Nachtman was that Friday morning?
Yes.
And how did the conversation go? Would you recall what time she was moving in?
Maybe 9 or 10, somewhere around there, because I was eating breakfast. So it was in the morning because I had somewhere to be afterwards.
Breakfast.
Was Petra in there with you when you saw her?
No.
What's
And
breakfast?
when Nicole Nachtman moved in, did she talk to you at all?
Yeah, she just introduced herself and what class she was in and stuff like that.
Did she say anything else to you? What class did she say she was in?
I know she was an upperclassman. I'm not exactly sure if she was a junior or a senior at the time.
And what else?
And I guess I was like asking her, oh, do you have anybody there to help you? And she said her dad was downstairs. to help her because I was concerned because she looked like she had a lot in her hand.
Okay. And so anything else that you can remember of the conversation that morning that y'all had?
Not at that time because she was in and out trying to bring her stuff in, and then later on, because I had to leave and go and meet with there was like a life coach meeting I had to go to, and then I came back and spoke to her a little bit then.
Okay, so you left for a while, and what did you recall about what time you came back?
Probably around the afternoon. I can't remember if it was because there was something else, another conversation we had. I can't remember if it was like the afternoon after I had went somewhere or beforehand, but I do know she had said that she wanted me to say that she had moved in the day before.
Okay, did she tell you who she wanted you to say that to?
I guess if anyone asked.
All right, did you find that strange?
I did. I didn't see anybody asking me like that type of question, so I didn't think it was that important.
All right, specifically, she said that if anyone asked you, she moved in the day before. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Well, now you know why.
So when you talked to her later in the afternoon, do you recall anything else she said?
No, because a lot of the times that we interacted, I was on my laptop and she was doing her own thing as well. Nothing.
Did there come a time where she ever mentioned anything about her mom?
She did eventually, because like I said, she was kind of going back and forth and out of the room. She said to me that her mom was like recently in like a car accident of some sort. I'm not exactly sure where it happened, but I assumed that it was like in her hometown, Tampa.
Okay. And you knew she was from Tampa at that point?
Yes.
Anything else you can recall her telling you that specifically stands out in your mind?
I know she said that, I don't know if she was on the phone with like a PI or private investigator, but that's about all I remember her saying, that she was like in conversation with a PI. I don't know if they're investigating like the car accident or something else. I'm not exactly sure.
All right. How did she seem that time? Did she seem nervous, excited, happy, sad? Any particular emotion that you noticed?
She seemed rather normal. I mean, maybe like, because she was sweating, maybe she was nervous or something of the sort, but she did seem rather like, okay, she wasn't sad or
Just
happy
seems
or
like
anything like that.
a sweaty person.
Were you and Petra ever in the same room together with her?
No, we were never in the same room together. It was always back and forth. We weren't all three in the same room at the same time.
And did Petra get out of the overflow housing that morning, or anyway, sometime while you were there?
So that was Friday. I think she told me that she had been assigned, I believe it was McCollum Hall that Thursday night, and she said that she was going to be moving out on Friday.
So eventually, what happened after all this time in the cold? Anything else happened that day?
I do know, I think I went outside briefly to maybe be on the phone or to talk to someone, but I did notice there's like a building in behind Smith Hall. There's these two buildings and there's like this little walkway. And I do remember her kind of like walking faster, like running across. I wasn't exactly sure what she was doing.
Okay. Did there come a time where the police ever showed up?
Yes. I'm sure when I went back to my room, and this was after like Nicole wasn't back in the room at that time when I went back in, I noticed that there was police outside of my room.
Okay. And did they let you back into your room?
At that time they did. One of the police officers eventually, I think after like maybe 30 minutes past of them being outside the room, one of them came in and he asked if he could stand inside with me. And I was like, sure, okay. So they came in and stood there for a bit. And then eventually they asked if I could
hear say.
I'll caution the witness not to testify for what someone else said.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But eventually, did you have to leave the room?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you identify to the law enforcement officers what property was yours?
No.
Okay. And how long did you think you were out of the room that you had to be out of the room?
I talked to the police maybe for like, I was probably at the police station for an hour or something like that. And then they brought me in a squad car back to Smith Hall, and I tried to go back into my room, but they said that I couldn't go in my room. It was blocked off. And then from that point on, I didn't go back into my room for another 8 hours.
So you actually went down to the police station that day?
Yes.
And you gave a statement?
Yes.
All right. And in that statement, did you let the police know what Nicole had told you?
Yes, I did.
Just want to have 1 second.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Cross-examination.
Ask the witness.
Morning, Ms. Battle.
Morning.
So you, back in August of 2015, were an incoming freshman.
Correct.
And you had indicated the reason you had gotten this overflow housing was because you had registered late.
Yes.
So this overflow housing is typically for either students who missed the deadline for housing, maybe forget to register for housing, and they put you in this overflow until there's a permanent spot available for you.
I guess I'll explain a little more. It's more like you accept your offer to go to that university, like Florida State, and Then at that point, you say like, oh, I want to live on-campus housing. And then I guess because it depends, it's like a totem pole. So if say you're like 800 and something, then you might be like at the bottom and they don't have enough space for you at the current time. And then they put you in overflow housing until say like a student decides they don't want to come to FSU, they might put you in that room.
Another reason though you could get into overflow housing is if you're for some reason late or missed the deadline and now there's no housing available. Let's say you're an upperclassman.
Mhm.
Is that true?
I'm not 100% sure because I was a freshman at the time, but
You didn't learn that later on as you moved through the system?
no, I didn't.
Seems like she was
Now, you
diligent
indicated your
and
parents
got
were there
in
to
there
move
on
you in.
time.
Correct. My parents and my sister.
That's typically common for college students. I'm assuming your parents help you kind of get your stuff in, get you situated, get you the things you need.
Correct.
In fact, your parents actually spent the night somewhere in Tallahassee that Wednesday night and then left on Thursday to make sure you were settled.
Correct.
She was an upperclassman. This wasn't her first
Now, the
rodeo.
overflow space you were assigned was called Smith Hall.
Correct.
So
Was
you
her
described it
were
as
her
this
parents
lounge
there
area
the
where they
first
just put in a couple
time
sets of
she
bunk
went
beds,
up
maybe
there?
a dresser until the permanent housing becomes available.
Correct.
Now, your first, I guess, overflow roommate you met was Petra,
Correct.
and you met her on Wednesday.
Correct.
And then at some point you said on Thursdays when she gets word that her real housing or permanent housing is available, so she was gonna be moving out on that Friday morning.
Correct.
You didn't see Miss Nachtman until Friday morning. That was your first time laying eyes on her.
Yes.
Your first impression of Miss Nachtman was that she appeared kind of weird to you, dressed weird.
It wasn't what I would typically wear, or that I was because I was 2015. It's not typically what I would see people wearing, but that might just been
Her style.
Yes, correct.
But different. Would that be
Yes.
fair to say? She was by herself, no one with her when you first met her,
Correct.
and you didn't really have much interaction with her when you initially meet her.
Oh, and
No, just
well,
the
you know,
basic
when she was
conversation of introducing yourself.
moving
You
in, her
indicated
parents
earlier
were
you
dead.
stayed on your
so
side of the room and you were on your laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
there's
ma'am.
that.
And then she was on, I guess,
Killed
the
them.
couch in the lounge doing her thing.
Yes.
Now, at some point after meeting her, you see her on the phone as if Miss Nachtman's receiving phone calls on her cell phone. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And after one of those phone calls that she's having is when she tells you that her mom was in an accident or some
Correct.
type of car accident.
Correct.
This didn't just come out of the blue. It was after you had already seen her on the phone talking to somebody.
Yes.
And you obviously have no idea who she was speaking to.
No.
Now, at some point, you see police officers outside, correct?
Yes.
But you never saw Miss Nachtman's reaction to the police there or anything like that.
No, she was not in the room.
And then you never saw her again.
No.
Your entire interaction with Miss Nachtman, fair to say, maybe a couple of hours.
Correct.
Now, when you get to Smith Hall that day, even though it's just overflow, I'm assuming there's somebody checking people in. Is that right?
Correct.
So they must have a list, or there's people from housing there. You know, Marielle Battle's here, and they check you in, and they give you your room assignment.
It's typically the residence assistants that are working, trying to check people in, and there's also probably like a resident coordinator walking around just to make sure everything's going smoothly.
And when you check in, do they check in? Okay, you checked in on Wednesday. I have you checked in at this particular date. Have you fill out forms, things like that. Do you remember any of that in the check-in process?
Yes, we did fill out forms.
Okay. So when Miss Nachtman told you that she wanted, if anyone asked, to tell them I've been here since yesterday, that would have seemed kind of odd, taking into account there's actually somebody downstairs checking you in when you really get there.
Correct.
And I'm assuming they asked for maybe your student ID to verify who you are
Correct.
and have you fill out forms. So that it's a very specific check-in process as to when someone arrives and who in fact they are.
Correct.
Well, you
And then
already
do you
said
all
she
at that
wasn't
point
that
have,
bright.
I guess, like your IDs or swipe cards to get in and out of the dorm?
Yes, the FSU ID.
Okay. So that's another method or way to kind of monitor who's coming in and out and when, if somebody needed to determine that. Isn't that right?
Correct.
I can have a moment?
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Redirect.
No redirect, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused by the state
Yes, you may.
and by the defendant.
Yes.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You may step down. You may be excused as a witness at this time.
I don't know what the fucking point of any of that was.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as I indicated before we called that witness, we'd be taking our lunch break after that witness. So we're going to take our lunch break now. It's a little early, but you're also getting out of here early today since we're not going until 5 or 5:30. I said I was going to give you an hour, but it's 11:22, so I'm just going to round up and give you till 12:30. So it's a little more than an hour. So I expect you back at 12:30. We will pick up at that point. Please do not discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Please do not do any research related to the case, and please avoid any exposure to this case outside of the courtroom. All rise for the jury. Jury has exited. Everyone may be seated. All right, we're not going to lunch. We're going to proceed with this issue of violation of the rule of sequestration.
Uh-oh.
First, I think that we can all agree, let me know if we can, but that apparently the next three witnesses have been watching the trial on live stream and also discussing their testimony amongst themselves outside of the courtroom. Is the information that I
Oh,
have.
shit.
Is that a correct assessment?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cherry, would you agree?
Judge, that's what I've been told. I mean, I don't,
Well, I thought you had the opportunity to talk to them.
no, I didn't ask any questions, Judge. That's what I went out there to see.
You went and instructed them.
I went and instructed them about the rule of sequestration. I said, and the judge is gonna want to talk to you individually
Okay.
about what you all may have talked about.
Okay.
That's all I said.
All right, well, and then we're going to get to the next stage of calling them in and talking to them. I have some case law that I have been reviewing and have provided to both the state and the defense. I just want to ask before we get started, just so I know the parameters of my inquiry with the witnesses. Is the defense in any way at this point contending that the violation was intentional or made in bad faith?
Probably.
Because that's one of the inquiries concerning the case law that I should do. And
Was it an intentional violation by the witnesses to violate the rule?
well, first let me say I am not accusing the witnesses when they come in here. I'm gonna tell them that no one's suggesting they did anything wrong, because I think the state has admitted. I'll go back and make sure that they were not instructed on the violation of the rule.
I had not instructed these three particular witnesses. They were the ones flying in, and I just, again, Judge, my fault. I did inadvertently forgot them as far as they were traveling and we were in here. And just-
Well, I'm not gonna get into that.
And again, going back to the live streaming, I did not realize until yesterday that the live streaming went beyond this courthouse. So I didn't realize you could actually get online. So I never even
But
thought.
whether they had exposure outside of the courtroom doesn't have anything to do with any of that, why they might have had it. So if they say that they did have exposure, then that's a violation of the rule, whether it's their intent or anyone else's intent. Because I know now that they weren't told, that was not, it cannot be attributed to them as their intent. So what I'm asking is whether the failure, I guess, to advise them of the invocation of the rule by the state is in any way done intentionally or in bad faith.
Okay, and the reason that I said it the way I did was I wanted to make sure that you were asking me, was the violation by these witnesses intentional? And if that's the question, the answer is no, because they were not advised of the rule. If you're asking me if it was done in bad faith, again, if we're talking about the witnesses, they were not advised of the rule, so they could not have done that in bad faith.
No, that's the easy part.
That's
But
the
the
easy-
inquiries also, it says the witnesses, the attorneys, or a party. So we have to focus on the state right now. Is it your assertion in any way that the state failed to advise them of the rule intentionally or in bad faith? Do you have any evidence or any reason to suspect that it was done intentionally or in bad faith?
Judge, do I believe that there are seasoned attorneys that are trying this case in this courtroom that know what the rule of sequestration is and understand the obligations that we as lawyers have, and that do I believe that it was negligent on the part of the state of Florida to not advise the witnesses that of the rule of sequestration?
Yep.
The answer to that would be yes, I do think that that's happened. Now, if you're asking
Well,
me to
negligent and
defer-
inadvertent, are quite the same. Intentional and bad faith is the other side of that.
Judge, what I'm going to say is, obviously, there are two attorneys in this courtroom trying this case. Neither one of them undertook their responsibility to advise the witnesses, and that those facts speak for themselves. And
Well, but you would agree with me that an attorney could do that intentionally. I don't want to advise them of the rule because I want them to be able to be influenced by it. Or they could just, because they're tied up or for whatever, whether it even be a poor excuse, an excuse that they didn't advise them of the rule, but that's inadvertent. I mean, there's a difference.
you know what? At this point, maybe I'm not in a position to answer that.
Okay.
Because if for some reason I discovered that in the last 2, 3, 4 days, they've talked to their witnesses and they didn't advise them of something that's gone on, I don't know enough about this to sit there. I've known Mr. Terry for as long as I've known the courthouse. So, I mean, I
Neither
think
one
I
of you
have
look
to
as
wait.
old as this courthouse.
We're both as old as this courthouse, Carol. But I think it's important to have the witnesses come in and testify because I don't know what
Well,
contact.
you see, and now you gave me another question to ask them, whether or not they've had any contact with anybody from the state attorney's office over the past couple of days. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate that in this inquiry, because that has added that, because that may factor in then to my ultimate determination, because pursuant to the Supreme Court of Florida, that's one of the questions that I have to answer, whether it was inadvertent or whether it was intentional and was done in bad faith. So I appreciate that. That's another question I have to ask. Now, are you aware of the case law, though, that says that the intent of the rule, it's not a strict rule of law. The Supreme Court has said it's not a strict rule of law, that the intent of the rule is intended to prevent a witness's testimony from being influenced by the testimony of other witnesses in the proceeding. And the Supreme Court has expressly stated that the rule must not be enforced in such a manner that it produces injustice. Before the court excludes testimony on the ground that the sequestration rule was violated, the court must determine that the witness's testimony was affected by other witnesses' testimony to the extent that it substantially differed from what it would have been had the witness not heard the testimony. So my next question is, were these witnesses who are about to testify, were they deposed under oath?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
And
Go ahead.
so in my mind, having read the two cases that you provided, and I've got someone doing a little bit of additional research just in case. In my mind, it's not only you making the inquiry about what they've been exposed to or not been exposed to, what did they talk about or not talk about, who from the state attorney's office has been in contact with them and when, because whether it's Mr. Terry, Ms. Derry, whether it be Ms. Blevins, whether it be some other assistant, have they had any contact with anyone? Because if you recall towards the end of yesterday, when Detective Thomas was on the stand, and I made an objection because I didn't know where the lake discussion was going to go. At that time, we took a break so that Mr. Terry could remind his witness of a suppression issue that had occurred so that we wouldn't have an error made. And he had not talked to Mr. Thomas about that, as I recall. Mr. Terry can certainly correct me. So not only would you have to do those inquiries, but basically now Mr. Terry or Ms. Derry will have to me, proffer the testimony and or place the testimony in front of you. You'll have to have a cross by Ms. Hersey. We'll have to see whether they're going to substantially change their testimony in any way so that you can make that inquiry. And I would suggest to you that I also would like to know if they were listening to the opening statements, because that can also impact how they might be now tailoring. So I don't know whether we're going to get to the point where I can tell you without listening to the testimony, is it appropriate to exclude that testimony? Because I don't know if they're going to substantially change it or be influenced.
But based on the case law that we're all aware of, if these witnesses march in here in front of this jury and testify identical, consistent with their former testimony at deposition, there's no issue.
If they do differently, then the jury will have heard them. We'll have to exclude them. We'll have to move for a mistrial. I would suggest in abundance of caution, considering we've been here for 5 days and I know how much all of us have expended, that we should not run that risk, depending on what they say to you when they come in here. I think we may find ourselves not only talking to them about the violation of the rule, but also how their testimony might be affected by that.
Judge, if I could interject here, these three witnesses, it might help your honor if you know what these three witnesses are going to testify to. And I think when you hear that, you'll realize the likelihood of them being affected by anything is so remote, it's hard to even express. Petra Henry, who would have been our next witness, to when Nicole Nachtman arrived. The first time she saw her was Friday morning. We've already heard that from Mary Battle. That's all she's going to testify to.
So why-
And the fact that she said that her mom had passed.
So what's the need? Why isn't that cumulative?
That's fine, Judge. If they wanted,
She's out.
we won't call her.
She's out.
No, wait.
Whoa, you want her to testify now.
Well, Judge, there's additional things that we expect her to say, and if she comes in and says something different, those aren't gonna be my only questions.
No, I'm in an abundance of caution excluding her.
No, why should the defense?
So now you want her to testify?
Why should the defense be prejudiced by what this is your witness, so feel free to.
Well, so wait a minute, you're raising this issue of a violation of the rule, and I'm saying I'm not gonna let her testify because what they want her for is cumulative. If you want her to testify, that's a different issue.
I don't want her to testify if when I ask her these questions, she's been colored because of the rule of sequestration. The issue doesn't change.
Is she your witness?
She's cross-subpoenaed.
She's listed as a defense witness as well.
Judge, she's cross subpoenaed, and if she changes what we anticipate she's testified to under oath based on her view, then yes, we're gonna have an issue and want her excluded. Again, we don't know. You're asking us questions that hypotheticals. We don't know what these witnesses are going to come in and say if they've been affected, if they haven't, and if they've changed.
I don't
Yes,
like
I
her.
actually made observations
Stop letting her
about someone
argue.
That I intended to
Let
ask
the other
about.
lady
Mr. Terry,
argue.
Just wanting to know she was there on Friday.
She's a
was the only
bitchy
question
lady.
That Ms. Henry would be asked.
Well,
Well, that's a cross-examination. That's a cross-examination. If I don't allow them to call her because they didn't inform her of the rule, and they don't get to get in that cumulative testimony about when she arrived, and you remain able to call her, she's on your list, she's cross-subpoenaed, then you can call her in your case in chief, and then we'll readdress whether or not I should exclude her because of a violation of the rule. And it's not your fault, so no, I wouldn't exclude her. You would be entitled to call her.
Okay.
She's out. That's easy. She's not testifying for the state.
The other two witnesses, Judge, are more ministerial than anything else. They're just going to basically testify to paperwork, quite actually, that the defense has already put into evidence in the motion that we had earlier. It's just paperwork. That's it, literally. One of the witnesses, Jessica Gilbert, is just going to talk about communications that are
And
already
both of these
put into the public
attorneys,
records.
like
So
the lady
that's
said
maybe this
earlier,
also testified to.
both of these attorneys had the
This woman
rules.
just checked her in. And
They're
all she's gonna say
both
is, yeah,
cross-
I checked her in. She came in. I gave her her key.
Well,
and she went
that
upstairs.
one
How those two particular
was
witnesses could possibly be
cross-subpoenaed.
affected by anything that was said previously in this trial.
You should
is
have
hard to
very
imagine.
well told them
Right,
all.
because
Don't
their
talk
testimony
to
is
each
so limited
other.
to just those two particular issues.
Don't
They never
watch
had any
the
contact with
trial.
Nicole Nachtman. They never had any contact with anything to do with this case other than to say, yeah, I texted her or we emailed back and forth. I told her about the housing situation. She sent me that she put in the money and I let her know she had housing. Christina Chiotti, all she did was check her in that morning. So how these two witnesses could in any way be affected by anything, including my opening, I couldn't even imagine, Your Honor. They're very small parts of this big, huge trial. And so their testimony is just limited to just getting this information in. And the information is not going to change. Those texts and those emails back and forth between Jennifer Gilbert or Jessica Gilbert and the defendant are going to be the same. That can't be changed. Christina Chiotti, the time she checked her in, that's going to be the same. That can't change. There's nothing from these two witnesses that can in any way change what their testimony is, because the testimony is limited to those issues. So Judge, I would ask that they be inquired. You can inquire of them, and if you can find out or see how their testimony could change, then that's fine. It can be excluded, but it's very ministerial. They're part of this whole thing. So I would suggest we just bring them in now, Judge.
The defense would ask that that the three individuals, well, you're gonna exclude, I would still suggest that for purposes of this record, that we should have an inquiry as to the three witnesses as to what was being discussed out there. That's what we would ask you to do at this time. He's absolutely right about what the two individuals are gonna do with regards to the housing and emails or whatever those paperwork documents are. We believe for preservation of the record, that we should make the inquiry, and we're comfortable with the court making the inquiry and allowing us to ask questions if necessary.
All right. Let's bring in, and because the one had conversation that I indicated I would exclude with the others, I'll inquire with her just so there's any, in case there's any inconsistencies that she suggests that they discuss something that the others don't. So we'll bring them in one at a time. What's their names? Petra Henry. I'm just going to put them at the podium there. I'm not going to put them on the stand. Again, I'm going to tell them that they haven't done anything wrong. Okay, hold on. We have a witness present. Ms. Henry, good morning or afternoon and welcome. It's still morning. Good morning and welcome. First, let me tell you that no one has suggested in any way that you did anything wrong, and I apologize for having to bring you in under these circumstances, but an issue has come up that necessitates me to inquire with you about a couple of issues. The first thing I need to do is swear you in. If you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you swear any testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you, Ms. Henry. You can put your hand down. First of all, it's come to our attention that some of the next witnesses may have had some exposure to this trial outside of this courtroom. Do you fall into that category?
I don't see how I would now.
Okay, well, what we heard is that someone may have watched the live stream of this trial. Have you had an opportunity to watch, or have you watched anything regarding this trial on live stream?
No, I've not.
Okay. The other issue of that is whether witnesses have discussed their testimony that they intend to give in here outside of this courtroom with other witnesses. Have you done that?
I have not.
Okay. Well, I'll open it up to, I'm going to open it up to questions from, you've answered the questions that I was concerned about. I'm going to allow either both the state and the defense to ask you any questions. Mr. Terry?
I have no questions.
This is Ms. Henry.
This is Ms. Henry.
Ms. Henry, I just have a few. Was there any discussion out in the lobby with, I guess, you and some of the other witnesses just about that you had given depositions in this case and you know?
We talked about how it was 2 years later and that was it. And we just discussed the roundtable. You know, there was nothing about the case at all.
That it had been 2 years. Was there any discussion about like depositions or how long it had been since you all had given depositions?
Not really, no. We mostly just talked about what we were doing now and where we lived and the weather and just kind of small talk.
And who was present for the conversation, if you remember? Like, who were the other people you were talking to?
Outside?
Yes.
Jessica and I forget the other person's name.
Okay. No, that's okay. I have some questions that you previously testified to under oath in a deposition, and I just want to make sure that these would still be your answers if I ask them.
Okay.
Do you recall when Ms. Nachtman, when you first came in, and I'm talking about the lounge area because you were there in that overflow housing in Smith Hall, right?
Correct.
And do you recall her sitting on her top bunk with a blanket around her when she first got there?
I do.
And that she had basically no sheets on her bed?
She had no sheets on her bed.
That she was upset and it looked like she had been crying?
She was crying or sniffling. I remember that very.
And you also saw her mumbling, but it was nothing you could really make out.
Well, I read my initial statement to the police. That was right after, and I remember it said that she was on her phone. So she might have just been reading something that's, I don't know.
Do you recall if it was mumbling or just nothing you could make out?
Nothing that I could make out. I was trying to just pack up my stuff and leave. I wasn't really paying much attention to.
Your overall impression of her was she was tired and kind of disheveled?
Very much so, yes.
Poor hygiene, just looked like a mess.
Yes,
You introduced yourself and asked her what was wrong,
I did.
and she told you her mother had died.
Correct.
Judge, those would be my only questions. It doesn't appear her testimony has changed from.
Ms. Henry, my last question to you is anything, the discussion that you had outside of the courtroom related to the round table or the length of time, have any effect on the testimony that you previously given in this case?
Not at all.
And that you intend to give when called in here as a witness?
Yes, not at all.
Thank you. Thank you. You may be excused. We're taking a lunch break, so the witnesses can also take lunch breaks. Please do not watch or listen to anything about this trial. Please do not discuss with anyone anything about this trial. But we're not going to come back and start calling witnesses until approximately 12:30. So I suspect you may be one of the next witnesses. All right. Who's the next one?
Jessica Gilbert.
All right. And before we bring in Ms. Gilbert, Ms. Volkera, I gave you some leeway on that one, but if their testimony is that they've had no exposure, this may be different. Someone may say that they've watched live stream, then I'll allow you to get into those questions. But I'm not going to allow you to get into those questions if there's no indication that they've had any violation of the rule, because we don't just do that with witnesses who didn't violate the rule. I gave you some leeway because of the serious nature of this case, but I'm not going to allow it with the next two unless we get past that first hurdle of whether there was any violation of the rule.
And Judge, the only reason we did that was because we had a conversation real quickly with the assistant state attorneys, because she is from Virginia, and everyone here recognizes the amount of time and money that has gone into this case, and that we would have had to bring her all the way back from Virginia for next week sometime. So that's why we did this. So I apologize.
No
I
problem.
told you.
No, it's all right.
And with that, are they withdrawing their motion to have her excluded?
Yes, Judge, based on her answers.
All right. I don't know that they had made a motion. There was no basis to make a motion. There was some
Your Honor.
suspicion that they may have violated. I hear you. I said she's not going to testify. I apologize. She can testify. Let's bring in the next one.
Jessica Gilbert.
Jessica Gilbert. Ms. Gilbert, good morning and welcome. I apologize for bringing you in under these circumstances. Let me assure you first that nobody is alleging that you've done anything wrong or anything like that. However, we got some information that we need to discuss before we allow you to testify in front of the jury. The first thing that I need to do is swear you in. If you'll raise your right hand, please. Thank you. You swear any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I agree, yeah. Ma'am, it's come to our attention that some of the witnesses in this case may have had discussions outside of the courtroom about their testimony, about their depositions, or any testimony that they intend to give in this case is one issue. The other is that some of the witnesses may have, because there is a live stream of this case, may have been able to watch part of this trial before they testify, either opening statements or testimony of witnesses. So it's a two-part question. So my first one to you is, did you have any exposure to this trial outside of this courtroom before you walked in today?
No.
And by that I mean, just so the record's clear and specifically, were you able to read any media reports of this trial or watch any live stream of this trial?
I did read an article on the case when it happened like 4 years ago.
Okay, that's not an issue. I'm not worried about that. Have you had any discussion either outside this courtroom or back at Florida State or on the way here since this trial started about your testimony in this case?
I have not.
Okay.
So where did you get your information
Mr.
from,
Terry, do you have
sir?
any questions?
I have no questions, Judge.
Ms. Volterra, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. We're taking a lunch break, so we're not going to start calling witnesses again. But once we pick up at 12:30, I suspect you'll be brought in at that time.
It's not
Thank
a
you. And in the
juror
meantime,
issue,
avoid
it's a
any
witness
contact with the case
issue.
and discussing it with anyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Christina Chiotti.
Chiotti? Ms. Chiotti, good morning and welcome. First of all, let me apologize for bringing you in under these circumstances. Please don't be nervous or think that you may have done anything wrong. We simply need to inquire about a couple of things before you testify.
Sure.
If you'll raise your right hand, please, I need to swear you in. Thank you. Do you swear any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you put your hand down. Then we've had some information or reports that some of the witnesses in this case may have been exposed to reports of the case since the trial started. It's being apparently live streamed on a couple of news networks, and we want to just make sure that the witnesses have not had exposure, watched anything, opening statements, testimony of any other witnesses, or anything like that. So my first question to you is, have you watched any reports, either in the news or live stream? Because I say news, and now there's all these social media like Instagram and FaceTime and all that. So anything outside of this courtroom.
I have watched a video from the first day. They said they were taking a while to select a jury, but nothing of testimonies of any sort of that nature.
So was that a news report of the, not of what was happening in the courtroom?
Right, it was a news anchor talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me, and I do have to inquire about the details of what you may have been exposed to.
It was just saying that it was taking longer than expected to pick the jury and that the trial is going to be taking place for the next 2 weeks.
Anything else? Any other details?
No.
And you already, but I just want to make sure the record is clear. You have not watched anything that was being done in the courtroom, opening statements, testimony of witnesses. Is that a correct statement?
Right.
That report that you did hear about the jury being taking longer than expected to be selected, that's an issue I have with the attorneys. But did that in any way influence the testimony that you intend to give in this case?
Yeah, there's nothing to
All right, so you, as far as you stand here before me, you don't expect your testimony that you've given in your deposition to change in any way?
No.
All right, Mr. Terry, any questions?
I have no questions.
You know what? I don't think I did the follow-up. I apologize. Did you have any discussions with anyone, any of the other witnesses about your testimony in this case?
About my testimony now.
Judge, I have a question.
Yes.
Ms. Chiotti, did you share with anyone out in the lobby about the live stream, or that you had shared it with a friend or something about live stream in the trial?
I had sent the live stream link to my mother so that she could.
Watch you testify
Yeah.
today.
Okay, so you are aware of the live stream, and the
I am.
discussion about the live stream, you were telling the two women that just walked out of here?
Yes, their parents wanted to watch as well.
Okay, so the live stream discussion was about your family getting to watch you guys testify?
Right.
And you have not watched any portions of the live stream?
No.
Okay. Were you all also discussing, you and the fellow witnesses, anything about when you gave your depositions or deposition testimony or anything like that?
Not specifically, no, it was, that we said it was a while ago.
That you had given your deposition?
Right, and that, that we established that we've all either attended school in Tallahassee or worked in Tallahassee.
So you did talk about giving depositions, but the content of what you testified
Right.
at during the depositions, you did not discuss.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Please don't discuss the case amongst anyone else, and don't watch any of that live stream. Don't even contact your parents until after you testify.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that. She's exited. Wow, that is not at all what we had been led to believe. So, are there any motions to strike her testimony?
No, Judge, but again, I understand what you just said, but in fact, there were discussions about depositions. We don't know what it is, and it's only appropriate for us to bring this to everybody's attention. And frankly, again, at this point now, no, there's not a motion. No, now we do know that conversations were happening, and we're not going to have our employees eavesdropping on people's conversations out there. So I think the inquiry was appropriate. And at this point, I think you should instruct both sides to make sure that we've talked to our witnesses and that the rule's been invoked and what that means.
I don't disagree that the inquiry was not appropriate, but it turns out to have been a false alarm. I will advise each side to ensure now, whether they're here, whether they're out of this country or out of this state, the implications of the rule and their need to follow it. Because if anything comes up at this point forward, we are going to do the same thing, and it may result in their preclusion from testifying, including.
We have, Judge.
and you know
looked at
what?
the list. Every single other person we have already advised us. These were the only ones
Alright.
because they were traveling and I was not in communication with them. I did not.
I hear you. That's the
But
first time I've
everyone
heard it.
else that's left on this
Alright.
list already knows.
I appreciate that, and I trust that. I told the jury 12:30. That gives you a little longer than 30 minutes to get your lunch, and my court personnel to take a break. We'll pick up at 12:30. Calling witnesses. Have a nice lunch. Thank you all.
You know what? And that's not even, listen, that's not an excuse. That's not a reason. And if they're cross-subpoenaed, ma'am, you have every obligation to tell your witness to not talk. So if it's his fault, it's your fault. So you can stop that. We're not going to have staff sit back and eavesdrop on the conversation. And so what if they were? If their testimony changes from their deposition, then you call them on it. Shit. There you go. You did what you were supposed to do. Your client killed her parents. She's either going to go to prison for a real, real long time, or she's going to go to a mental hospital for a real, real long time. Either way, she killed her mom and dad. And for what? You are giving no other explanation other than she was mad and she didn't want to disappoint her parents and she had mental health issues. Okay. Cool. Anyway, we are going to stop this here and we will have so much left to do after this. Oh my god, there's so much. There's so much left. There's so much left. I don't know. So all those people get to testify. So it should be interesting to see how they go. So yeah. Yep. But that's it. That's all we got. I got nothing else. So that was fun. Peach. All right. So tell me what you think. Like, subscribe, comment, do all of the things, share. Join me on the next one. See how those three cope with the testimony. See if the defense gets snarky, gets bitchy. And see if, anything exciting happens. But see how the judge is? I like the judge. I like the judge. I do. So, okay. It's been real. Peace.